and the neighboring governments that they have gone to. People who are in camps outside are finding life a tormented kind of life. They cannot live there. They are all destined to become sick and die eventually. Starvation and no medical help. And no, of course, we did not even speak about education now. Education now is a luxury. And so the international community can help in these aspects, bettering the help, humanitarian help, and helping Sudanese in their refugee camps and in their places which are less than dignified places to live in, to live a dignified life until they come back home. And they can help in the reconstruction of infrastructure in the country. And they can help with educational program, temporary educational program for the 19,000 child who are out of schools for 3 or now 4 years. 33 million needed humanitarian aid, and 7.3 million are women of reproductive age who are now just roaming around in these camps and trying to help in temporary kitchens and things like that, and with no jobs or anything to do. And 12 million are at the risk of gender-based violence. And when we say gender-based violence, we mean rape and sexual assaults and all these terrible things that are happening to the women all around the world. 1.1 million are pregnant women. And all of these are exposed to sexual violence, rape, kidnapping, child marriages, severe shortage of hygiene products, and millions are still displaced from their homes.
Thank you for listening to the interview. You'll find more in-depth conversations on the interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including episodes with Google's CEO, Sundar Pichai, and Antonio Guterres, Secretary-General of the United Nations, plus many others. Until the next time, bye for now.
From the BBC, that was...
Good morning, Manitoba. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. I'm Corey Funk, sitting in this Friday for Marcy Marcusa. It is May 29th, and let's say hello to the wonderful crew helping put together today's show. Abby Adeyemi is here with us. He is our studio technician, as well as Sierra Sanders, our studio director, and Darren Morash is our YouTube producer, and I am Corey Funk. And let's also say hello to Heather Wells, who's in with a look at news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, late nights of debate are over after Manitoba's budget bill has now passed a final vote. There have been long days and some nights of acrimonious debate in the chamber. Now, this passage of the budget bill paves the way for the elimination of the provincial sales tax from snacks, soft drinks, and prepared meals at grocery and convenience stores starting July 1st. A Canadian fugitive wanted in Manitoba has been arrested in Mexico after 4 years on the run. Denny Isiku, who is now 28, has been on the run since 2022. He's charged in connection to Project Divergent. That's the RCMP investigation that infiltrated an international drug trafficking operation. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
You.
That's Heather Wells at your CBC News desk. We are looking at another spicy day here in Manitoba. Yellow heat warning in effect for pretty much everywhere in Manitoba except for Churchill. So if you are anywhere in Manitoba, chances are you are going to be experiencing highs in the mid 30s, and that looks like in the forecast for the weekend as well. It looks like it's going to be very similar, maybe slightly cooler, more like highs of 30 on Saturday and Sunday, at least here in Winnipeg. We're going to get more of the forecast coming up in about 15 minutes or so, but just assume it's going to be a scorcher today. Coming up this next half hour on the show, we're going to have the latest on reports that the U.S. and Iran have reached a framework on a deal to extend their ceasefire by 60 days. Also, community in Headingley has rallied around a local preschool after a thief rode off with an entire play structure. We're going to hear from the owner of the school and find out how they plan to rebuild. That's coming up here on Information Radio. Stay tuned. We'll be back after World Report.
On Q. You might know Paul Gross from his time on the hit Canadian show Due South. Paul will be here to tell you about the time they almost literally blew up one of Canada's most famous music venues shooting that show.
No, this is a huge amount of dynamite.
His new role in Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, and why he thinks that play is one of the great feats of human civilization.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. A major diplomatic gamble is playing out in Ottawa today as China's foreign minister begins the first high-level visit to Canada in a decade. Wang Yi's 3-day trip is the clearest sign yet of a rapid thaw in relations following Prime Minister Mark Carney's high-profile reset strategy in Beijing last January. Janice McGregor joins us from our Parliamentary Bureau. So, Janice, Prime Minister Carney eager to reset the relationship with China, but a lot of work remains on that.
Yeah, absolutely. The agri-food sector, for example, would tell you that they still don't have full access to the Chinese market for key commodities like pork and canola oil. And despite Canada lowering its tariffs on a limited number of Chinese electric vehicles, as the foreign minister arrives this week, the online tracker at Global Affairs Canada still shows no EVs actually having entered Canada's market yet at this lower rate, notwithstanding reports in early May that a first batch of luxury brand Lotus EVs was apparently on the water headed this way. In front of an American business audience yesterday, Mark Carney downplayed American concerns that this deal with China somehow allows a flood of cheap new Chinese EV brands into this market.
Historically, they're all Teslas. It looks like most of the ones that'll come in are Teslas as well in the short term. Now, over time, we're going to get lower cost, broader range of things, but in a controlled way.
Canada's among countries under investigation by the U.S. for not doing enough to block products made with forced labor. This very real and pending tariff threat makes for some difficult conversations with Chinese officials about their supply chains. And the Americans' determination to get cheap Chinese steel and car parts and investment generally out of North American manufacturing, well, that lies at the heart of the hardest bargains the U.S. is trying to drive with Mexico right now in the CUSMA review talks.
So, Janice, beyond trade, there are still some highly sensitive diplomatic issues.
Oh, so tense. China doesn't want Canadian warships passing through the Taiwan Strait, but in the run-up to this meeting, HMCS Charlottetown has apparently, according to the Globe and Mail, done just that as part of an ongoing multi-nation push to insist on freedom of navigation in what Canada considers to be international waters. But Beijing doesn't.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
A dangerous security crisis is unfolding on Europe's eastern flank this morning. For the first time since the war began, an active Russian attack drone has flown deep into NATO territory and slammed into a civilian apartment building. The overnight blast injured at least 2 people in the Romanian border city of Galatz. The CBC's Anna Cunningham has the details.
Slabs of concrete and shattered glass from broken windows. Debris from a drone strike, familiar in Ukraine, but this is Romania. In the early hours of this morning, a Russian drone crashed into this apartment block 18 kilometres from the Ukrainian border. US citizen Stephen Evelyn has lived in the city for 2 years.
Well, I think it's another provocation by the Russians NATO needs to do something about this.
The Romanian Ministry of Defence says fragments of Russian drones have fallen 47 times on Romanian territory over the past 4 years. One local Romanian man questions why it was allowed to strike when he says so many planes are guarding our country. At an early morning press conference, Romania's Ministry of Defence said there was no real opportunity to shoot it down. Romania is a NATO member country. President Nicolae Dan has spoken with the NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte. Rutte says Russia's reckless behaviour is a threat to us all. Condemnation across European nations is widespread. President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen says Russia's war of aggression has crossed yet another line. Both Romania and France have summoned the Russian ambassadors. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andrei Sybiha says this again proves Russian aggression poses a real threat to the Black Sea region and all of Europe. Romania is holding a meeting of its country's Supreme Defence Council this morning. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
U.S. officials are signaling that a major deal with Iran is close. But so far, no green light from the Oval Office, and Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency reports a deal has been neither finalized nor confirmed. The CBC's Willie Lowry is in Jerusalem. So, Willie, what's the latest on the talk of a deal?
John, it appears that a deal is close. U.S. sources confirmed yesterday that an agreement had been reached that would extend this fragile ceasefire for another 60 days. But President Donald Trump wanted a little more time to ruminate on it before signing it. Speaking at Joint Base Andrews, Vice President J.D. Vance seemed to push back on that notion.
We've already decimated their conventional military, and we're in a position where we could substantially set back their nuclear program, not just during the term of this president, but over the long term. That's a very, very good thing for the American people. So we're not there yet, but we're very close, and we're going to keep on working at it.
The broad contours of the deal center around the conflict ending and the Strait of Hormuz reopening. The two countries would then keep working over the coming months on the fate of Iran's enriched uranium and the country's nuclear program.
So, Willie, how is Israel responding to the possibility that a deal could be close?
A big question in all of these negotiations is whether it will include Lebanon or not. The Israeli military in recent days has significantly ramped up its operations there. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered the IDF to intensify its campaign in southern Lebanon. Israeli troops have crossed over the Litani River that cuts across much of southern Lebanon. And on Thursday, the Israeli military hit a Beirut suburb for the first time in several weeks. Israel has also intensified its operations in Gaza. Netanyahu ordered the military to take control of 70% of the territory. John, that's significantly more than was agreed upon in last October's ceasefire deal.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Jerusalem. Thanks, Willie.
My pleasure.
Oh my gosh. No
that?
way. No freaking way. What is that?
Something exploded.
An eyewitness records the moment a heavy lift rocket owned by billionaire Jeff Bezos explodes on a Florida launch pad. The uncrewed New Glenn rocket exploded during a routine engine test at Cape Canaveral. The massive next-generation rocket is the exact vehicle Blue Origin plans to use to launch lunar landers to the moon for NASA. Company officials are downplaying the blast, saying the rocket merely experienced an anomaly. Bezos says all launch pad personnel are accounted for and safe. The Saskatchewan legislature is undergoing some long overdue renovations. Right now, male politicians have a private washroom with multiple stalls and urinals, but female MLAs, who make up nearly 30% of the legislature, have to share just one single stall. The CBC's Colleen Silverthorne has the story.
It's 2026. It's been a long time. We've had a female member. The first one was, in 1919.
Iris Lang has worked at Saskatchewan's legislative building for 41 years. As clerk of the Assembly, she's watched the number of women elected as MLAs grow, but their bathroom space has stayed the same. One stall for everyone to share.
There has been a need, and now there's more and more women, and it's just equitable.
Long overdue, a new bathroom is nearly complete for female MLAs, with multiple stalls and a family change room. It's retaining the legislature's charm, complete with an oak fireplace and soaring windows. NDP MLA Kim Breckner says it's about time. She has a 5-month-old who she brought to work this week since MLAs don't get maternity leave. And she's not alone.
There's a lot of instances where we're going to have to bring our babies, and to see that kind of level of, we want you here, we're going to make these facilities available to you, it makes this a whole lot easier.
As for Lang, the new bathroom is in her old office. She pushed to get the project done and helped get the money, $200,000, approved. Lang plans to retire in 2 years and says it'll be a great legacy to leave behind. Colleen Silverthorne, CBC News, Regina.
And finally,
I feel like you're Indiana Jones, open up one of those caves. It could be nothing. It could be something.
with tangled cobwebs hanging from the ceiling and a pleasant, musky sweetness in the air, a subterranean wine vault once owned by Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin has been unsealed in Georgia. The dim cellar looks more like a sunken pirate ship than a treasure trove, but it holds 40,000 rare bottles, including some seized from the Russian Tsar's family during the 1917 revolution. The Georgian government plans to auction off the historic stash to fund a world-class wine school. That's the latest. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Wild, a wine school funded by Soviet wine. Good morning. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. You are in Manitoba right now. It's May 29th. It is Friday, and it's good to be with you. We got a scorcher ahead. Yellow heat warnings in effect for much of the province. We're going to get the details coming up. But this hour on the show, we're going to talk about some of the geopolitical concerns around the FIFA World Cup that is just 2 weeks away. Also, we're going to hear about the Canadian Screen Awards happening this Sunday. The CEO of the Academy of Canadian Cinema and TV is going to join us to tell us all about it after a big year in Canadian TV with shows like Heated Rivalry and North of North making a big splash. Also, first up here on the show, community in Headingley is rallied around a local preschool after a thief rode off with an entire play structure. We're going to hear from the owner of the school and find out how they plan to rebuild. That's coming up right here on Information Radio. Right now, though, at 6:11, let's check in with Heather Wells with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, some British imports are on their way to help reinforce Manitoba's healthcare system. Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera flew to the UK last month, a country with overworked doctors and a paramedic hiring freeze in some areas. Asseguera returned with conditional deals to hire 24 doctors and 29 medics. We're going to hear more about that. And a Brandon truck driver is angry traffic lights aren't functioning at the scene of a fatal crash. A 49-year-old woman died after her SUV was hit by a semi-truck in Brandon on Wednesday. Police there say the big truck didn't stop at a stop sign. More on that coming up in our next news at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thanks.
That is Heather Wells at your CBC News desk. Well, let's check in with the spicy day ahead here, Abby. What's going on?
Yes, Corey, it's going to be another hot one, especially as we end this, take this last Friday in the month of May. We're looking at still this significant heat event province-wide, hence the heat warnings we have in effect, which is soaring into the mid-30s for regions in the south. While if you track it up north, we're still going to see temperatures even climbing above 25 in most of the regions up north. For the Red River Valley region, we are beginning the morning. We saw some partly cloudy conditions, the sun already creeping out. Current temperatures around 22 degrees at this time. It will be a humid one as we climb towards 33, 34 later in the day. The winds will keep things moving through the afternoon and across the regions. Looking across southern Manitoba, communities around Morden, Winkler towards Port La Prairie and even Brandon, we're seeing clear start already. It's going to be a hot one. Temperatures already, we will see it above seasonal, and it's going to be very warm and sunny with daytime highs also in the mid-30s. Dauphin currently at 23 degrees at this time and sunny. Then we travel into the central and the northern part of the province. Conditions more varied across that region. Around the Par, Flin Flin, we're seeing 20 degrees around the Par, 15 15 around Flin Flon, and Norway House is sunny at 14, Thompson 18 with light rain falling there. Temperatures really going to be staying around the mid-teens for much of the regions, though closer to the Hudson Bay, we're seeing Churchill seeing slightly cooler temperatures. We're looking at 2 degrees there under mostly cloudy skies, and Churchill only gets to 15 today. So it's more like this major heat event is still going to stay with us into the weekend and even into the coming week. We're expecting a mix of sun and clouds for Saturday, highs of 30 in the city. But right now it is 21. We get to 33 today.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
That is Abby Adiemi. And Sierra Sanders is in as well. I would look at the commute. Hello.
Hi, Corey. It's pretty quiet out there right now as people kick off or just starting to wake up here on this hot, muggy Friday morning. I was walking in this morning from our parking lot, and I was walking. I could already feel the mugginess in the air. So something to keep in mind there as you step outside today. But things are looking and sounding pretty quiet right now. But if that does change, the number to call this morning is 204-788-3093.
Well, it's not an object you'd expect to disappear in the middle of the night. Last Friday, the play structure at Headingley's Guiding Minds Montessori School was stolen from the swing set to slide. But like swings, the story has both ups and downs, and Angie Izzard is the owner and director of Guiding Minds Montessori School, and she told guest host Chloe Friesen what happened on Up to Speed yesterday.
Yeah, on Friday morning when I showed up to open up the center, we noticed that our fence was broken into, so it was smashed. Somebody drove over it, and then I looked over and I'm like, oh my gosh, the play structure is missing and gone. So I was quite shocked.
What do you do next in that moment?
Well, I just kind of was just kind of shocked of that. I don't know how they even could get such a large object out of the play area.
Right.
So,
can you describe just how big this thing is?
So it had the kids had to walk up the stairs to go into a little house thing, to go down the slide or go on the monkey bars, and then they had 3 swings.
Okay, so this is a big structure. It's not just like one of those little Tykes plastic playhouses.
No.
This is a play structure.
This is a play structure, yeah.
What do you tell the kids in a moment like this about where the play structure went?
So we tried to, until they didn't really understand until they were allowed to go outside in the afternoon. But in the morning, we said we had to stay in, that, our outdoor play area got damaged. Somebody drove into our play yard and stole our structure. So we had to stay in that morning. But once I kind of got the temporary fence up and the pieces of wood and all that stuff that was left behind, all cleaned up and safe for the kids to play with. Once we allowed them to go out in the afternoon, that's when we kind of heard, and it kind of broke my heart, was like, oh my gosh, where's our play structure? What did we do? And so they thought it was their fault, or they lost their play structure. So they were quite upset because they actually visually could see that it was gone. So when, and then that's when they would say, was it a bad man? Or yes, it was a bad man, So we just ensured them that we were going to get them a new one, and everything's going to get, Miss Angie's in the works of replacing our structure to make our play area fun again.
Oh man, there's nothing that's it's heartbreaking seeing a sad kid. What, when news got out, what was the community reaction like?
The community reaction is nothing like I have ever felt before. So, I have a great community. My families here are very supportive that I have in my center. One of them started a GoFundMe for me, which I'm truly grateful to kind of help me get things fixed. Not only that, people that I don't even know from different companies have reached out to me to help. They're like, I can't believe someone would steal a structure from children, so people have offered to go get me a new play structure, or give me
Wow.
money for a play structure, build me a play structure, offer me like wood to build a new play structure. I've had alarm companies come here and say, okay, I'm coming here to I'm going to give you cameras to install. I've had a magician come or phone me and say, you tell me a time and I'm there to help do a magic show for your kids
You've
for
got
free.
magicians calling you.
I have like it goes on and on and on of different people that have just reached out to me to say, like, I'm so sorry you're going through this and we're here to help.
Are you accepting any of the offers for the money? You mentioned the GoFundMe, but the offer of a new play structure or wood, like what's happening next?
Yeah, so I have a parent that has offered he said to me, go and find the best play structure out there. I don't care, like a good one, and I will pay for it. So we're in the works of getting a really good play structure. It's going to be about, $5,000. So that's in the works of trying to figure how to get it here and all of that. So we're doing that. I have a scheduled time for the magician to come in for the kids. So it's in the works. So it'll be good once it's done.
And part of this story is the fact that police found the play structure, but you can't use it anymore. What was it like when was it returned?
Yeah, so I got a call on Tuesday at about 5:58 from the police officer that has been helping me with this case, and said that this suspect has been in their custody and has been arrested. And they have my play structure. So they then said that they were in the process, because it's so large, but they didn't have anywhere to take it, so they needed to return it to the school, even if it was dismantled. So they had to kind of dismantle or take it apart and bring us what they had.
So you have the pieces now?
I have the pieces. It's not in the yard. It's on the outside of the play yard, because I don't want any of the kids to get injured. So that day I was very surreal. Like, they called me. They're like, okay, we're on our way. They got a flat deck tow truck. I'm waiting at my school, and about 8:30, the police and tow truck drove up to drop off what is the remainings of the play structure.
Oh, that sounds like kind of a sad moment.
Yeah, it was very surreal. I never thought this would ever happen, but it did. But it also gives me a little bit of peace that it's here. That I don't know what we're going to do. There is a part that is still somewhat attached where the kids could kind of climb up, but the slide is ripped off. The monkey bars are ripped off. So one of my dads, he's a very handy man, and he's like, we can do something with this. So we think we're going to put it in one of our corners of our play area and use it as a little tree house. So he's going to fix it up. We're going to put some chalk or some things in there, cover it up, so it's an area for the kids to kind of like sit or do what they want in the area.
Angie Izzard is the owner and director of Guiding Minds Montessori School. A 35-year-old man has been arrested in Winnipeg's St. Vital neighborhood in connection with the theft.
Manitoba may have a reputation for being cold and flat, but our podcast isn't. I'm Marcy Marcusa, the warmest host on the prairies. Even when my podcast, This is Manitoba, is exploring some challenging issues. I'm never flat when it comes to holding our leaders to account. Some of those interviews have been called spicy. If you care about this province, check out This is Manitoba, with new episodes dropping every Wednesday.
6:22 right now. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. Well, up next on the show, U.S. and Iranian negotiators have reportedly reached an agreement to extend their ceasefire. It comes as the two countries have renewed attacks and traded strikes this week, and both sides have accused the other of violating the fragile truce in recent days. And for more on this story, we've reached Hussein Ibish. He is a senior resident and scholar at the Arab Gulf States Institute. We reached him in Washington, D.C. this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
What can you tell us about the reports that the U.S. and Iran have reached a deal on a 60-day ceasefire extension? What do we know right now?
Well, the first thing is that it's subject to final approval by both sides, especially Donald Trump has not signed off on it yet, so we don't know about that. Second thing is, what we gather is that it deals with the two issues that are central to Trump's concerns. First is the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and some kind of pullback from Iran's outrageous extraterritorial claims on that waterway, an attempt to extract holes and hello?
Hello.
Yep.
Yeah, you're still there.
Hello? Sorry. Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry about that. So it also deal with the nuclear, the highly enriched uranium that is about 400 kgs that Iran possesses that has not been dealt with in the past. So those two things have to be dealt with. But what I think it won't deal with is the underlying nuclear issues and issues such as Iran's drone and missile arsenal and support for regional groups that will probably not be dealt with at all and will be negotiated at some future stage, but probably can't be resolved. And so it would probably be the framework for what I can best describe as a hot peace, a situation where you don't have an ongoing war all the time, but rather a conflict that ebbs and flows, that flares up from time to time and then dies down and then flares up again, much like the U.S. had with Iraq in the 1990s and Israel has with Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon, or even to some extent Russia and Ukraine.
And what's the chances Trump, agrees to a ceasefire extension even if Iran doesn't open the strait?
No, I think the Strait of Hormuz is an absolute must. He's not going to agree to anything that allows him to be subjected to the accusation that everything was okay until you launched this madcap war, and now we have this crisis in the Strait of Hormuz, and it's all your fault. He's got to deal with that crisis that he's created. And the other crisis, the one about the highly enriched uranium that's buried near Isfahan, about 400 kgs of 60 to 70% enriched uranium, is also the result of one of his blunders back in 2018 when he withdrew from the Obama-era JCPOA. And it's after that Iran accumulated that dangerous stockpile of heavy enriched uranium. So he needs to deal with those things. And if he can get those off the table, then he could probably back away from the immediate war and embrace the hot peace I described.
So, the U.S. has the large military, but Iran has power over the Strait of Hormuz and, this enriched uranium. So it's hard to know, who has the upper hand. What do you think right now about who has the most negotiating power right now?
I think it's fascinating. This is a great example of a kind of 21st century reality where, it's the newly found power of the weak to kind of fend off the power of the strong. And this is a kind of typical standoff of our era where the stronger power cannot be defeated by the weaker power. The weaker power simply doesn't have the strength to do it. But the stronger power doesn't know how to thwart the weaker power because the weaker power will endure any amount of pain it needs to. This is existential for Iran. It just won't give in. It will endure as much pain as possible because the regime's survival depends on it. And yet the regime in Iran cannot defeat the Americans, so you have a standoff. And that's exactly what produces this kind of cold peace I'm describing. Hot peace that I'm describing, where there's a kind of a resolution of the immediate fighting, but no sustainable peace agreement.
But do you think the U.S. would sell that hot peace as just pure peace going forward?
Trump would at first, yes. He would claim victory. He would say it's great, better than Obama, the greatest thing of all time, etc. But he'd be lying as usual.
So what will you be following in the days ahead with the war and efforts to negotiate a peace deal?
Yeah. Look at the future of the Strait of Hormuz. How much has Iran backed down from its claims? Is it just going to let shipping go through, or is it really going to relinquish its extraterritorial claims? The second thing that you need to look at is to what extent will the peace be sustainable for a matter of months and even years? Will it give way to a kind of stasis or ceasefire that can be maintained for a while before it erupts into another conflict? I think another conflict is almost inevitable, but how long is it going to take? Is this, in other words, is the enriched uranium going to be dealt with? And are we going to go back to just glaring at each other across the table about Iran's nuclear program and missiles and drones and support for armed gangs in the Arab world? I mean, if that's the case, then I think it could be sustainable for a while before we have another war. If it's less than that and just a very tentative set of agreements, then we may find ourselves back in another conflict sooner rather than later.
Well, Hussein, we'll leave it there. Thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Hussein Ibish is a senior resident scholar at the Arab Gulf States Institute and a frequent contributor to the Globe and Mail and the Atlantic. Stay tuned here on Information Radio. Still to come in our business report, we're going to hear how popular EV subsidies have been for Canadians. And if you see something going on in the commute, you can give us a call, 204-788-3093. Time now for your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 21 already, and Winnipeg, as well as most of the province, continues to bake under a heat warning. In the city today, becoming a mix of sun and clouds, a southerly breeze, and a high this afternoon of 33. Well, the city has set up even more ways to help you beat the heat this weekend. 9 drinking water stations are set up in central Winnipeg neighborhoods where you can fill up reusable water bottles. Michael Olchek, the emergency management coordinator, says they've also teamed up with 6 community centers to create cooling spaces.
We've got Bronx Park Community Center with the Clara Hughes Recreation Park, East Elmwood Community Center, Luxton Community Center, Lord Roberts Community Center, as well as Riverview Community Center. So if anyone in those particular areas may not have air conditioning in their home or someone that they know, they can go to those community centers during regular operating hours, and they'll be able to get bottled water, a cool space to sit down.
You can also enjoy air conditioning at any city-run recreation or leisure facility, including libraries, during regular hours. The full list of spaces, cooling spaces, is on the City of Winnipeg website. You can expect to soon hear more British voices in Manitoba hospitals and ambulances. The province has signed conditional deals with 24 doctors and 29 paramedics to come here from the UK. Return of service agreements are one of the carrots Manitoba's using to lure the new paramedics. Each new paramedic gets to keep a $20,000 bonus if they stay here for 4 years. Jason Linkletter is the president of the Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals.
It's largely untested in terms of paramedic-specific tools, but I do know that return of service agreements in other areas that I am more familiar with are very successful.
The new hires from a recruiting visit by Manitoba's health minister to the UK last month. Manitoba's budget bill has passed a final vote after long days and some nights of acrimonious debate. The move paves the way for the elimination of the provincial sales tax from snacks, soft drinks, and prepared meals at grocery and convenience stores starting July 1st. Premier Wab Kinew's government introduced the bill earlier this month, wanted it to pass into law before the legislative summer break, which begins on Monday. The opposition Progressive Conservatives spent hours, including 2 late-night sittings this week, demanding the government add an income tax cut to the bill. Calls for better controls at a Brandon intersection. A 49-year-old woman died Wednesday when the SUV she was driving was hit by a semi. Police say the semi failed to stop. Traffic lights were installed at that intersection last summer, but they haven't been activated. Brandon truck driver John Harrower says that is unacceptable.
Something needs to be done. It's sitting there not doing its job. Either make the functioning traffic lights all three colors or turn them all red until you can actually get the equipment that's needed.
The driver of the semi is charged with dangerous driving causing death. A 28-year-old Canadian fugitive on the run for years has been arrested in Mexico. As CBC's Santiago Arias Orozco tells us, the BC man is wanted in Manitoba on drug-related charges.
Denis Ipsico has been on the run since 2022, wanted by the RCMP. Back then, he was charged in connection to what police dubbed Project Divergent. That investigation infiltrated an international trafficking operation smuggling drugs into Manitoba. Ipsico, who is from BC's Lower Mainland, fled before he could be arrested. During the trial of another man charged in Project Divergent, court heard Ipsico sold multiple kilograms of methamphetamine to a drug dealer turned informant, helping the RCMP. After 4 years fleeing from authorities, Ipsico was arrested in the Mexican state of Quintana Roo 2 weeks ago. Canada's Justice Department says he's now facing extradition proceedings on charges including conspiracy to traffic a controlled substance. Santiago Arias Orozco, CBC News, Winnipeg.
At least 2 people are injured after a Russian drone struck an apartment building in Romania overnight. The drone hit a 10-story residential block in the city of Galati, which sits near the Romania border with Ukraine and Moldova. Romania's defense ministry says Russian drones breached its airspace 47 times during the war in Ukraine, but this is the first time a drone has actually hit a densely populated area and caused injuries. American Stephen Evelyn lives in the city and he's calling the strike deliberate provocation.
I don't believe this was an accident. This has happened too many times for the Russians to be doing this by accident. Either that or they're highly incompetent at waging war. But NATO needs to do something about this.
You can hear more national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Filipino music is filling Steinbach this weekend. That is Moonstar 88, one of 3 Filipino bands in Steinbach on Saturday for a national tour. The concert producer Alex Canlapan says this could be the start of regular big hits from the Philippines coming to Steinbach. He says the new Southeast Event Center with its 4,000-seat capacity is a perfect size for some touring acts.
We can bring more artists and more performers from Manila, and we can use the beautiful venue that we have here in Steinbach. The facility is very good.
Steinbach is the second last stop on the tour ahead of Sunday's finale in Toronto. You can find more Manitoba news at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is Heather Wells at your CBC News desk. Abby Adiami, what's going on with the weather?
Yeah, the temperatures are already climbing across the southern regions. We're already seeing 20s in most of the regions, and we're getting into that range close to 35 for today. While for the northern part of the province, we're still dealing with mixed conditions. Some areas might notice occasional thunderstorms here and there, and even light showers in the northern parts of the province. However, highs are still going to warm up to the upper 20s in a lot of regions up north. But for the Red River Valley region at this time, currently 23 in the city, mainly sunny outside. We're expecting a hot afternoon with a high reaching 34. Now across the southern regions, Brandon, Dauphin, all the way towards Gimli, we're seeing temperatures already in the 20s climbing to 33 later, while up north we're seeing temperatures around 18 degrees at this time, and highs will hover between 24 and 30. Though Churchill stays much cooler with highs around 15 degrees. So this heat wave is expected to spread into the weekend with slightly moderate temperatures arriving sometime next week, but before then, we'll deal with today, tomorrow, and into Sunday. Tonight still stays warm and muggy, but for today, it's sunny. It's a hot morning across Manitoba. Winnipeg right now, 21 degrees.
Thank you very much, Abby. And Sierra Sanders, what's going on with the commute?
It's been pretty quiet out there, Corey. Not too much. No, I'm not hearing too much that's happening out there. The commuter line's been pretty quiet this morning, which to me sounds like your early morning commute is looking pretty good right now. But if that does change, whether you are here in Winnipeg or anywhere else in the province, I'd love to hear what you're seeing out there. Maybe you're seeing something good too. I don't know. I'm here for the good, maybe sometimes the bad things. So give me a call on the CBC commuter line if you have any updates on what's going on out there. That number is 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Sierra. And Sierra actually just confirmed an interview with Lori Forbes, who's the Municipal Emergency Coordinator for the RM of Kelsey, because yesterday the RM posted that there are 7 active fires along Provincial Highway 10, right between essentially the Paw and Flin Flon around Egg Lake. So we're going to get an update on how those fires there are crews that are actively fighting those fires. Overnight, there was a post last night around 8:44 p.m. That the fires just north of Egg Lake are responding well to air attacks. So now this morning, we're going to get an update just after 7 o'clock from Lori Forbes from the RM of Kelsey about how those fires have been responding overnight and what's been happening with that. So stay tuned for that after 7. Right now, though, at 6:38, let's check in with Christely Ramlakan, who's here with your business report. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Corey.
So let's just start with how the economy is doing. What can you tell us?
Well, Statistics Canada will reveal today how ongoing tariffs and the start of the war in Iran have affected the economy in the first quarter of this year. So the agency's initial estimates suggest the economy rebounded somewhat after a mild contraction in the final quarter of last year. And the economy also, was growing modestly in January and February, but an estimate for March anticipates that momentum has stalled. So it was suggested that last month that seasonal maintenance in the oil and gas sector weighed on the industry in March, even as the war sent global energy prices soaring. Meanwhile, world shares have mostly advanced, and stock markets in Japan and South Korea have hit fresh records today on expectations the U.S. and Iran will agree to extend a ceasefire. So oil prices have slipped, but they do remain above pre-war levels still. And analysts warn the potential ceasefire extension should be viewed with caution, as it's going to take time for oil supplies to recover. And yesterday, Wall Street pushed to more records, with the S&P 500 setting another all-time high. And tech gains also brought up Canada's main stock index.
And next up here, let's talk about electric vehicles. So there's those subsidies for EVs. How much are Canadians, taking up the offer?
Well, Canadians claimed more than $122 million in federal subsidies for new electric vehicles since the government reintroduced its rebate program in February. So 24,000 claims have been recorded, and more than $2 billion has been allocated for this rebate program over 5 years. So about $2.1 billion is still available for people. Now, though, the Canadian Auto Dealers Association says many dealerships still have not been reimbursed under the new program. So dealers apply the rebate on the final bill and then seek reimbursement. That's how the program works. And Transport Canada says it is aware of these concerns and is working on a fix. And it's also reviewing cases where administrative errors may have led to rejected claims. So the first federal EV rebate program launched in 2019 before shutting down last year when funds ran out, and EV sales plunged almost immediately, but then they jumped right back after those rebates could be claimed again. So Canada has set a target of putting 840,000 new EVs on the road by offering up to $5,000 toward the cost of a new one and $2,500 toward plug-in hybrids. And the rebates only apply to vehicles less than $50,000, though. Canadian-made EVs are exempt from that cap, but imported EVs are only eligible for rebates if they come from countries that Canada has free trade agreements with. So that means Chinese-built EVs, including Teslas, are shut out of the program. And Teslas were by far the most popular cars under the former program.
And finally here, someone at Google's been charged with insider trading. So what are the details on that?
Yes, that's right. So U.S. prosecutors allege the software engineer used confidential company information to pocket more than $1.2 million on prediction market platform Polymarket. So authorities say the 36-year-old used Google's year-end search data to place bets on search trends before that data was published. And Google says the employee has been placed on leave and is cooperating with law enforcement. Polymarket also says it is working closely with authorities. But this case just underlines the latest concerns about insider trading in this growing world of speculative 24/7 transactions that are now filling the internet.
Well, thank you very much, Crystal Lee.
Thanks, Corey.
That is Crystal Lee Ramlakan with your business news. Well, up next here on the show, this coming Sunday evening, the brightest in Canadian TV and cinema will be celebrated. The Canadian Screen Awards will be broadcast and streamed widely, and the host is comedian and actor Andrew Fung. And if you love CBC's North of North and craves heated rivalry, or films like 40 Acres, Blue Heron, and Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, you're gonna want to tune in. And for more on what to expect, we're joined by Tammy Frick. She's Chief Executive Officer of the Academy of Canadian Cinema and Television, and she joins us now from Toronto. Good morning.
Good morning, Corey. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you for joining us. So, taken together, how would you characterize this year's nominees in Canadian TV and film? You know, what do they represent about the state of the homegrown industry right now?
Well, we're in a fun place, let me say. I think our nominees this year really represent a Canadian industry that's become quite confident, very ambitious. We're doing some wonderful, bold content, and we're definitely, increasing that global audience as well. So we're seeing stories that are, still very deeply rooted in Canadian experiences, but are connecting with audiences beyond our borders, far beyond our borders.
And so what can we expect in terms of the awards show? Just give us like an idea of what we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. So Andrew Fung is the host. We'll bring a lot of humor and warmth, of course. And I think we've done a really wonderful job of just integrating some of the, more legendary, iconic Canadian talent. Mike Myers will be there to accept the Icon Award. Hazel May is also receiving a Broadcast Journalism Award, which is really, really wonderful. And then we'll see a combination of very familiar faces. Some of the breakout stars of the year, like the Hudson Williams from Heated Rivalry, Sophie Nélis will be on stage. And then we'll see people like Alan Hocko, who's very familiar, his new show, St. Pierre, but we know him from Republic of Doyle, from Winona Earp fame, and Don Wick will be there on the lawn from North of North, which, again, a huge breakout show for Canada. So just the show will have wonderful presenters, some great moments, but of course it's all about the acceptance speeches. That's where the heart really comes to the show. And those moments, we can't predict. They're unpredictable, but we always know they present such beautiful moments for us as viewers.
Also got to give a shout out to our very own Josh Crabb, who's nominated for Best Local Reporter at the Canadian Screen Awards as well. So looking forward to seeing how he does there. So shout out to him. Could you also just walk us through some of the films that are nominated as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned a couple of them coming into this. So 40 Acres is a film that's getting so much attention, and rightfully so. It's so jam-packed with action and beautiful drama, post-apocalyptic film it really is a thriller, and it's shot gorgeously. It's really resonating with audiences. Bit of a breakout, cult phenomenon, Nirvana the band, the show, the movie. This is just such a uniquely Canadian wonderful comedy that just develops a passionate following because it's so original and so offbeat. I mean, it's really garnered quite the fan base and is doing well. And then we'll see some of these beautiful films like Blue Heron that is, again, so representative of what we are in our diversity in Canada. It's a Hungarian immigrant family living on Vancouver Island, directed by first-time feature film director, which is just wonderful to see. So this great mix of diversity and these authentic stories that we're just celebrating, that have done so well at international film festivals, and not always the easiest to find, but now with streaming platforms, more opportunity for us to see great Canadian film also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned there, not always easy to find, and they do well at film festivals. But a lot of these films you mentioned, they're lovely, but they're not necessarily like blockbusters, necessarily. What do you think needs to happen to get these movies in front of more people?
Yeah, I think we're getting there. The thing is, the whole way of consuming content has changed so much over the years. So even if a film doesn't have theatrical release, there's other ways of getting in front of audiences. Or if it does have a theatrical release, like Nevada the Band to Show the Movie had a great release in Canada. It's just, the world has changed in how they consume content. With the streaming platforms and the availability of making sure that this content is out there, I think it's more helping audiences find these wonderful films. It's not so much that they're not there and accessible. It's that discoverability piece and that pathway to help audiences find them. So you're right. In Canada, we've done an amazing job of supporting this cultural sector in our media arts and making wonderful film and TV. I think there's still a lot to do on the side of discoverability and just, helping, having that access piece. And lots of great conversation happening around that. So I'm hoping over the next few years that will become something that will be less and less an issue, and we'll see some wonderful things moving forward.
And what are some of the themes and storylines you're seeing in Canadian TV and film production these days that sort of, exemplify the era that we're living in right now?
Yeah, it's there's always these underlying themes, you're right, and it's so unpredictable. This time, I think we're seeing a lot of, identity and belonging. Creators are really exploring what it means to be Canadian through a wide range of cultural and regional and very personal perspectives. There's a strong community connection. So stories that deal with conflict and uncertainty, but there's always this underlying focus on relationships and resilience. So I think that does speak volumes as to, what people are feeling, and this always comes through in our art form.
Well, Tammy, thanks for your time this morning, and enjoy the weekend.
Thank you so much. We will. And again, thank you so much for having me on.
That was Tammy Frick. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the Academy of Canadian Cinema and Television. If you want to watch the Canadian Screen Awards that are hosted by actor and comedian Andrew Fung, so we heard there, they're going to air from the CBC Broadcast Centre in Toronto on Sunday, this coming Sunday, May 31st, beginning at 8 p.m. on CBC, CBC Gem, Crave, CTV Global, and Stack TV. Well, another thing people will be watching a lot in a couple weeks, of course, is the FIFA World Cup next month. 48 nations participating, and it's going to be the biggest FIFA World Cup we've ever seen. And as usual, it comes with some big geopolitical concerns. And joining me now to discuss this and the history of political controversy at the World Cup is Scott Regehr with CBC Sports. Good morning, Scott.
Hey, Corey.
So before we get into the specifics here, what makes this tournament so ripe for geopolitical tension?
Well, it's sheer size and scope. Soccer, Corey, is the planet's only truly global sport, and the World Cup is obviously its showcase event. FIFA projects around 6 billion people are going to tune into this summer's tournament across all platforms, with the World Cup final alone accounting for about 1.5 billion viewers, and that would make it the most watched live event in history. With that kind of reach, Corey, nations have a unique opportunity to project prestige, bolster their global standing, and secure diplomatic influence. Look at the last World Cup in Qatar, The hosts came under intense global scrutiny around their record on LGBTQ plus issues, human rights, as well as their treatment of migrant laborers. A report at the time by The Guardian revealed more than 6,000 workers brought in from India, Pakistan, and other countries to build stadiums in the intense desert heat died in the process. Now, Qatari officials dispute the claims, but after the World Cup was done, the country overhauled its migrant labor laws and provided much better care and compensation for workers. So, just one example, Corey, of how the intense geopolitical scrutiny that surrounds World Cups can exact change.
So what are the major geopolitical issues at play at this summer's tournament then?
Well, the one's tied to U.S. foreign policy for sure. Under an American travel ban, citizens of 4 qualified nations are going to be significantly restricted. That includes Haiti. Last fall, the country earned a spot in the World Cup for the first time in 52 years. And now it finds itself on the U.S. government's travel ban list, which means although players, team staff, and their immediate relatives can attend the tournament, visiting fans can't. Even Haitians living inside the U.S. are nervous. Fritznel Octave is a Haitian journalist based in Florida, and he says, Corey, when Haiti qualified for the World Cup, Haitians wanted to go out and celebrate.
But they couldn't do that. Many were afraid to get out. They say, you know what? I don't know. Even though I have a green card, but I don't want to go out there because even U.S. citizens get caught by ICE and get deported.
So with matches scheduled for Boston, Philadelphia, and Atlanta, don't expect throngs of Haitian supporters to attend them, which is a shame for a country that since a 2010 earthquake has suffered famine and widespread instability, including criminal gangs taking over the national soccer stadium. As for the other nations whose supporters will be persona non grata in the U.S., that will be the case for those from Senegal, Ivory Coast, as well as Iran.
So let's talk more about Iran here. What can you tell us about their involvement in the tournament?
Well, since the U.S. and Israel began bombing the country back in February, Iran's participation in this World Cup has been in question. Donald Trump says it's not a good idea. Iran's sports minister says it's not for Trump to decide, and FIFA has been busy trying to work out some sort of solution. I spoke to Shireen Ahmed, a senior contributor with CBC Sports, about Iran's predicament.
Essentially, you have a qualified team that is scheduled to play in the country that is actively bombing them. And that is not something I can recall happening in World Cup history. Now, the reality is it took a long time. It took a quadrennial for them to get there, to achieve this. The qualifiers start years ago. Rankings are affected. We've seen so much type of collusion between the U.S. and FIFA, and Gianni Infantino giving Donald Trump this FIFA Peace Prize. So most of us are shaking our heads, not understanding. So the winner of the first FIFA Peace Prize is the one that's warmongering. So we're not. So it's very unclear. It's just incredibly unfortunate.
Unfortunate. And if you're a member of the Iranian team, Corey, very inconvenient. Washington is refusing to let them stay overnight in the U.S., which means they're going to train and sleep in Mexico and then commute to their scheduled matches in Los Angeles and Seattle. And who's to say there won't be last-minute visa denials to the players, especially if they have ties to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps? Star forward Mehdi Taremi is among several players who do have ties to that corps, a result of them fulfilling Iran's mandatory military duty. So stay tuned. Right now, the Iranians are poised to play in the World Cup, but with 3 weeks to go till the tournament kicks off, a lot could change.
Most certainly. And this isn't actually the first time politics has threatened attendance at the tournament, too, is it?
No, far from it. The withdrawal of already qualified nations has a history, Corey, almost as long as the tournament itself. In 1938, for instance, South American nations pulled out of the World Cup in France after FIFA awarded hosting rights to Europe, which broke its informal promise of continental rotation. Then you have the 1966 tourney in England where no African countries were involved. They withdrew, saying it was demeaning that FIFA awarded just one qualifying spot to them, Asia, and Oceania combined. Quite a difference from this summer's World Cup, where they'll claim around 20 spots between them. But the withdrawal surrounded by the most intrigue, well, that could be the so-called barefoot boycott. India, whose players didn't wear shoes, qualified and then pulled out of the 1950 World Cup in Brazil. It was widely accepted for years, Corey, that it was because FIFA had a ban on playing barefoot. But historians have dispelled that. Turns out India's withdrawal was because of high travel costs and a preference to play at the 1952 Olympics, which was a much more prestigious soccer tournament at the time. India hasn't qualified for a World Cup since, so to this day, Corey, with or without footwear, the world's most populous nation still hasn't competed on the biggest stage in the world's most popular sport.
I actually would have, if you would have told me how many times has India participated, I would have been like, I don't know, 5. Wild.
Most people would, just on the basis of population alone.
Well, thank you very much, Scott.
You betcha.
That's Scott Reguer, producer with CBC Sports. And his radio special, See the Rise, Canada's World Cup, is available right now on the CBC Listen app. Well, still to come here on CBC Radio 1, an elementary class from Winnipeg wrote an original song for CBC's Music Class Challenge, and they chose the Olympics as their theme. So here's a snippet of that piece. Still to come here, we're going to be speaking to a few of the kids who helped write that song. They're joining us in studio. It's going to be adorable. Up next, though, here, let's check in with Heather Wells with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, some British imports are on their way to help reinforce Manitoba's healthcare system. Health Minister Uzoma Asogwara flew to the UK last month, a country with overworked doctors and a paramedic hiring freeze in some areas. Asogwara returned with conditional deals to hire 24 doctors and 29 paramedics. And heat warnings continue across much of Manitoba. In Winnipeg, the city has set up even more ways to help you beat the heat with drinking water stations and cooling stations. So we'll hear about that as well coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather. About 7 active fires popped up along Highway 10 yesterday between the Paw and Cranberry Portage. We're getting an update on how crews have been fighting those fires and how those fires have been responding from the arm of Kelsey. That's coming up after 7. If you see anything going on in the commute as well on the highways or here in Winnipeg, you can give us a call on the CBC commuter line, 204-788-3093. I'm Corey Funk in for Marcy Marcusa, and we'll be back after World Report. Stay tuned.
On the current. Windows were shattered and fires started in buildings across Kyiv.
I'm Rebecca Zanbergen. As the war in Ukraine enters day 1,556, we'll talk to Russian dissident and former political prisoner in Russia, Vladimir Kara-Murza, about the situation on the ground in Kyiv and Moscow. Coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. A major diplomatic gamble is playing out in Ottawa today as China's foreign minister begins the first high-level visit to Canada in a decade. Wang Yi's 3-day trip is the clearest sign yet of a rapid thaw in relations following Prime Minister Mark Carney's high-profile reset strategy in Beijing last January. Janice McGregor joins us now from our Parliamentary Bureau. So, Janice, Prime Minister Carney eager to reset the relationship with China, but a lot of work remains on that.
Yeah, absolutely. The agri-food sector, for example, would tell you that they still don't have full access to the Chinese market for key commodities like pork and canola oil. And despite Canada lowering its tariffs on a limited number of Chinese electric vehicles, as the foreign minister arrives this week, the online tracker at Global Affairs Canada still shows no EVs actually having entered Canada's market yet at this lower rate, notwithstanding reports in early May that a first batch of luxury brand Lotus EVs was apparently on the water headed this way. In front of an American business audience yesterday, Mark Carney downplayed American concerns that this deal with China somehow allows a flood of cheap new Chinese EV brands into this market.
Historically, they're all Teslas. It looks like most of the ones that'll come in are Teslas as well in the short term. Now, over time, we're going to get lower cost, broader range of things, but in a controlled way.
Canada's among countries under investigation by the U.S. for not doing enough to block products made with forced labor. This very real and pending tariff threat makes for some difficult conversations with Chinese officials about their supply chains. And the Americans' determination to get cheap Chinese steel and car parts and investment generally out of North American manufacturing, well, that lies at the heart of the hardest bargains the U.S. is trying to drive with Mexico right now in the CUSMA review talks.
So, Janice, beyond trade, there are still some highly sensitive diplomatic issues.
Oh, so tense. China doesn't want Canadian warships passing through the Taiwan Strait, but in the run-up to this meeting, HMCS Charlottetown has apparently, according to the Globe and Mail, done just that, as part of an ongoing multi-nation push to insist on freedom of navigation in what Canada considers to be international waters. But Beijing doesn't.
Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
A dangerous security crisis is unfolding on Europe's eastern flank this morning. For the first time since the war began, an active Russian attack drone has flown deep into NATO territory and slammed into a civilian apartment building. The overnight blast injured at least 2 people in the Romanian border city of Galați. The CBC's Anna Cunningham has the details.
Slabs of concrete and shattered glass from broken windows. Debris from a drone strike, familiar in Ukraine, but this is Romania. In the early hours of this morning, a Russian drone crashed into this apartment block 18 kilometres from the Ukrainian border. US citizen Stephen Evelyn has lived in the city for 2 years.
Well, I think it's another provocation by the Russians. NATO needs to do something about this.
The Romanian Ministry of Defence says fragments of Russian drones have fallen 47 times on Romanian territory over the past 4 years. One local Romanian man questions why it was allowed to strike when he says so many planes are guarding our country. At an early morning press conference, Romania's Ministry of Defence said there was no real opportunity to shoot it down. Romania is a NATO member country. President Nicolae Dan has spoken with the NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte. Rutte says Russia's reckless behaviour is a threat to us all. Condemnation across European nations is widespread. President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen says Russia's war of aggression has crossed yet another line. Both Romania and France have summoned the Russian ambassadors. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andrei Sybiha says this again proves Russian aggression poses a real threat to the Black Sea region and all of Europe. Romania is holding a meeting of its country's Supreme Defence Council this morning. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
A court in Kenya is ordering a temporary suspension of a U.S. military Ebola quarantine facility. The Trump administration plans to use the site to isolate American citizens who may have been exposed to the deadly virus while working in Africa. Under the policy, if those workers develop symptoms, they would be banned from returning to the United States. The dispute comes as more countries move to impose strict Ebola-related travel restrictions. The World Health Organization is urging borders to remain open, warning that locking down travel makes it harder to manage the outbreak. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus is the WHO Secretary General.
When countries are transparently reporting their cases, when you ban travel, it doesn't encourage them, because other countries then will say, okay, if I'm going to be sanctioned or if there will be a ban imposed on me, travel ban, then they might ask, why do I even report early?
Canada is among those tightening its borders. Ottawa has suspended entry visas for residents coming from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, and South Sudan, while forcing returning Canadians into a strict 21-day quarantine. So far, the Central African outbreak has surged past 1,000 presumed cases and more than 260 deaths. Police in Kenya say they've arrested 8 people in connection with a deadly fire at a girls' school north of Nairobi. All of them are students and have been detained on suspicion of arson. The fire tore through a school dormitory overnight Wednesday, killing 16 children. Dozens more were injured. More than 200 students were sleeping inside the building when the fire broke out. Italian anti-mafia investigators seized more than $300 million in assets tied to organized crime. The money and luxury properties were housed across several different countries, and they were part of a criminal network of a late Sicilian mafia boss who for years sat at the very top of Europe's most wanted list. As Megan Williams reports, the raids, part of an ongoing international hunt for the cash he left behind.
When Italian police arrested Sicilian mafia boss Matteo Messina Denaro outside a Palermo clinic 3 years ago, it ended a 30-year manhunt. He died months later in prison, but his money kept moving. This week, Italian finance police released video of masked officers smashing through doors, climbing villa walls, and searching luxury properties ringed by palm trees. They say they seized more than $300 million in cash, companies, and real estate tied to Messina Denaro's drug trafficking network that spanned Sicily, Spain, Switzerland, and the Cayman Islands. The break in the case came when someone flagged an Italian woman with significant financial resources in Spain, who was then linked to Messina Denaro.
Sottrarre queste ricchezze significa.
Italy's national anti-mafia prosecutor Giovanni Melillo says the operation wasn't just about recovering dirty dough, but blocking the Sicilian Cosa Nostra mafia from rebuilding its reduced empire. When he died, Messina Denaro was serving life sentences for 1992 bombings that killed 2 anti-mafia prosecutors and the kidnapping and killing of the 12-year-old son of a mafioso turned informer. Investigators say the recovered assets likely represent a mere fraction of the total criminal capital once controlled by Messina Denaro. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
Philipita, Filipita. That is correct. Thank you.
14-year-old Shrey Parekh of California is the first national spelling bee, or rather the new national spelling bee king. This after a dramatic one-on-one round with Parekh locking horns with New Jersey's Ishan Gupta in a fierce final duel last night in Washington. Now, neither teenager would budge, forcing the competition into a high-stakes 90-second rapid-fire spell-off until...
Shrey, during the spell-off, you correctly spelled a total of 32 words. Ishan, you correctly spelled a total of 25 words, and that means that Shrey, you are the 2020.
The official winning word, bromocryptine, and that's B-R-O-M. Well, you get the picture. Parekh takes home the giant trophy and a cool $52,000 in cash. And that is the latest national and international NEWS from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Well, G-O-O-D morning, Manitoba. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. It's Friday, May 29th. And a spicy Friday it will be out there. We have a yellow heat warning in effect for the majority of the province, pretty much everywhere but Churchill. We're going to get the details on that just ahead. Coming up this hour on the show, it's time for a check-in at the Fort White Pond. We're going to dive in and see what's growing there this week. Also, later this hour on the show, an elementary class from Winnipeg wrote an original song for CBC's Music Class Challenge, and they chose Olympics as their theme. So we are going to be chatting with 2 of the students, the elementary school students, and the teacher who helped compose that song, and we're going to hear a little bit about it as well. They're joining us in studio. But up first here, 7 fires popped up along Highway 10 between the Pas and Cranberry Portage yesterday. 6 of them were small, but 1 managed to jump the highway. We're going to get an update on those fires from the RM of Kelsey just ahead. But first, let's check in with Heather Wells with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, late nights of debate are over after Manitoba's budget bill has now passed its final vote. There were long days and some nights of acrimonious debate in the chamber. This passage paves the way for the elimination of the provincial sales tax from snacks, soft drinks, and prepared meals at grocery and convenience stores starting July 1st. A Brandon truck driver is angry traffic lights aren't functioning at the scene of a fatal crash. A 49-year-old woman died after her SUV was hit by a semi-truck in Brandon on Wednesday. Police say the big truck failed to stop. Trucker John Harrower says traffic lights were installed at that intersection last summer. He wants to know why they aren't working yet. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That's Heather Wells at your CBC News desk. And as mentioned, another hot day ahead for Manitoba. And Abby Adeyemi is here with the details. Good morning.
Yes, Corey. Heat warnings in effect across the province. We're talking about this is stretching from the south all the way into the northern part of the province as far as Lynn Lake this morning, making it really, really important to stay hydrated and cool. For the Red River Valley region, Winnipeg right now, we're looking at temperatures hovering around 20 to 22 under partly cloudy skies, with sun already making its appearance. We're going to notice some breezy conditions from the south. Our daytime high for the city will be hitting 33 today, while across the southern region, the Pembina Valley region, the Westman, the Parkland, the Interlake region, it's going to be a hot morning with temperatures between 17 and 25 at this time, and we'll see highs close to 35 in most of the regions, while up north we're already seeing 16s to 21s depending on where you are, and 4 degrees in some areas, 18 degrees in some areas. Churchill only gets to 15 today, but other parts of the north will definitely crawl close to 30 degrees, and tonight it's still going to be warm even into the rest of the weekend. But for now, Winnipeg, we're looking at 21 degrees, and we will see a high of close to 35 today.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Abby Adeyemi with your weather. Sierra Sanders, what's going on with the commute?
Not too much, Corey. It's been a pretty quiet commute here on this Friday morning. Not hearing about too much going on out there. The commuter line's been pretty quiet so far today. But if that does change and there is something that gets in your way out there, whether you are here in Winnipeg or anywhere else in the province, I'd love to hear about it. So give me a call on that CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
Well, as mentioned, 7 new fires appeared along Highway 10 between the Paw and Cranberry Portage yesterday. 6 of them were small, but 1 managed to jump the highway. And for an update on those fires, we've reached Lori Forbes, the Municipal Emergency Coordinator with the RM of Kelsey. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Lori, just give us a sense of where these fires are and when they began yesterday.
So there's a location north of the Paw as identified as Egg Lake, and then Goose Lake just beyond that. And those fires were within that area. And alongside, like we were saying, Highway number 10. So, yeah, a couple of fires popped up in there for sure.
And what are the status of those fires right now?
As of last night, I haven't had any new report this morning yet, but all of those fires were responding very well to the air attack. We had Manitoba Wildfire Services had water bombers on those right away. They got ground crews up to them, and currently those fires were surrounded by the ground crews, which is a really good sign because that's the ability to hold those fires where they are. And they were all responding really, really well to the suppression. We have some heavy equipment on site there as well, just to assist any ground crews with any needs that they have.
And how concerned should nearby communities be about these fires at this point?
Right now, I believe Manitoba Wildfire Service has a great handle on them. I mean, we all can see the weather that we have ahead of us. We all have to be very aware and very keen on we have fire bans in effect with the north. It's too early to tell today. I mean, fires often lay down a little bit at night, but there'll be more reports here this morning on those conditions, and it would be too soon for me to say right now.
And any word on what caused those fires?
Yeah, it would be really not my place to say. I'm not really sure. That would be if there's any investigations warranted, that would be done by Manitoba Wildfire Services. So I really don't know. I just really deal with what I need to do based on a fire and letting the community know what's happening so that they know, to be ready. This is a really good time of year to ensure that you are ready to evacuate if need be. I mean, we can see the last couple of years we've had some pretty intense situations. So I think everyone that lives up here and was part of last year are really keen and pretty much on edge, especially with this heat wave that we're going to be receiving this weekend for sure.
Yeah, how prepared are you for more fires to potentially pop up in the coming days with all this heat coming?
I think we're very prepared. Every year we do this, we are a little better prepared. We just have to kind of sit back and wait and let Mother Nature run its course. Hopefully that we're safe and everything is well through this hot weekend. But certainly we will definitely have fires. Hopefully they can be managed by Manitoba Wildfire Services, and we can all enjoy our summer like we all deserve.
Mm-hmm. And where you are now, is there smoke in the air? What's happening with that?
Well, I actually live just outside the Paw in Carrot Valley, so I'm not able to see the smoke at the distance. It's over an hour north of the Paw, so town of the Paw. So the arm of Kelsey is very widespread. I can't see any smoke this morning. No.
Okay. And just finally here, you mentioned there's bans, but how do those bans work? What do people need to know to prevent forest fires? In the coming days?
The arm of Kelsey right now, Opaskwayak Cree Nation, there are fire bans on to restrict fires. So all burning permits that were acquired by residents have been canceled. No open fires can take place. We're restricting any fires in fire pits, so all fires, no fireworks are allowed, and no sky lanterns for any type of celebration. So we've implemented some strict fire bans right now, and that's just with respect to the weather, certainly.
Well, Lori, thanks for your time this morning. Really appreciate it, and all the best with the few hot days ahead.
Thank you.
That is Lori Forbes. She is the Municipal Emergency Coordinator with the RM of Kelsey. And if you are wondering, according to the Manitoba Fire Review map, the largest out-of-control wildfire right now is just outside of Easterville, Manitoba, in the Interlake. And according to the Fire Review website, that fire right now still seen as out of control, and it is 412 hectares. No evacuations or anything like that at this point have been called, but it is, according to the website, being seen as out of control. 7:18 right now. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Corey Funk in for Marcy Marcusa. Well, up next here on the show, it's time for our next check-in at Fort White Alive. Last week, Fort White's education manager, Katrina Fraze, told Jim Agapito about all the little critters springing to life in the pond as the temperatures slowly begin to rise above freezing. And here's what that sounded like.
We've got, so the ones that were gathering their air bubbles at the surface and heading back down underwater are our pygmy back swimmers. And I think I saw a mosquito larva in there as well. There's a caddisfly. Oh, my favorite one. This little tiny line that's moving every so often. There's two of them in here.
Okay.
It looks like a dash line that's moving. It's actually a tube made out of plants that's being pulled along by a little caterpillar-like creature that's using its legs to swim.
So that was just a small sample of the life Jim and Katrina saw that day, and now she's back with an update on what's changed since the temperatures leaped into double digits. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm going to ignore the mosquito larvae because I know for a fact that that those mosquitoes are now actual mosquitoes now. So what's the biggest change in the pond from last week to this week?
Well, I'm out here at the pond right now. Excuse me. One of the biggest changes is kind of at the surface with the plant growth. So we have some algae starting to grow on the surface, and we also have very, very tiny little round plants called duckweed that are starting to kind of divide. And then when you look down to the bottom of the pond, there's plants starting to grow up from the bottom. So that provides like a little bit more structure for different types of insects and critters to use, as well as to eat.
So we actually have on YouTube right now, we have a shot of the critters in the bucket there. And actually there's an interesting one. So there's some pretty big animals zipping around in pairs, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on there?
Yeah, so at Fort White, we call those side swimmers. They're also known as amphipods or scuds. There's a few different names for them. They're a shrimp-like creature. But yes, they're going around in pairs. So they have a behavior called mate guarding. So the male is the one on the top of the pair, and he is kind of holding on to the female and swimming around, pulling her around. And they'll stay in those pairs for up to a couple of weeks. The goal there is for the male to make sure that the female doesn't mate with another male. For the female, apparently there's some benefits as well. And they may actually be more successful being in a pair too. But yeah, you can see them zipping around with all their legs moving to try to push them around. When we have a group of children here at Fort White and they ask about what's going on with those two, we usually say they're holding hands or dancing or mating, depending on the age of the group.
And so tell us about some of the other animals that we can see here in the pond.
Yeah, so one of my favorite ones this week is the diving beetle larva. So it's a water beetle larva. They've got 6 legs and they're long and skinny. And if you take a look at their head, they've got some really big jaws on the head. So we also call those water tigers because of their voracious appetite. They like to eat other smaller critters in the water. And those jaws actually have a digestive enzyme that they can kind of inject when they grab their prey to start to digest it while they're eating it. So they're really neat to watch swim around. They're quite quick. And some of them will cling to the plants and kind of wait for their prey. So it's really neat to watch them.
It sounds so otherworldly. It sounds like you're describing some distant planet. So last time you thought we might get to start seeing tadpoles actually pretty soon, but there don't seem to be any in the samples at least now. So where's the tadpoles?
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's tadpoles in many ponds. My pond here at Fort White, I wasn't able to scoop any this week. They may have just been hiding from my net, but this is a time of year for tadpoles to start developing, come out of their eggs and start to grow. So I may find them a little bit later because they may just be quite small right now and escaping me. I have been seeing a lot more turtles here, though. They're pulling out on the side of the pond to sun themselves. And as I was sitting here, a few were swimming by and I could see them coming up for air. So, yeah.
Oh, how do the turtles feel about this hot weather, you think?
I think they probably enjoy it quite a bit. So for turtles, when they get ultraviolet light and heat, it helps them to deal with some of the buildup of toxins that they have in their body from sleeping all winter at the bottom of the pond. So it is actually good for them to be out in the sun.
Okay. And what kind of changes do you expect to see in the pond in the coming weeks?
Well, I'm looking forward to, like I said, still hopefully a few tadpoles that we might see, but my favorite underwater creature is the dragonfly larva. And we've been seeing adult dragonflies coming by, and I haven't seen them in pairs yet, but pretty soon we will. They'll start laying their eggs in the pond, and then those will develop into these crazy crawling underwater beetle-like creatures that I'm really looking forward to scooping up and taking a look at.
So fun. Well, Katrina, thanks for your time this morning. I love the sound of the birds out there. It seems so peaceful out there right now.
I'm glad you can hear them.
Well, all the best. That is Katrina Fraze, the education manager at Fort White Alive. Well, 7:24 right now here on Information Radio. We're going to pivot now from some critter dipping to the CFL sports. Paul McGowan is in now with your morning sports. Hello there.
Good morning, Corey.
So some big news yesterday ahead of the final day of preseason with the CFL. What's going on?
Yeah, a new media rights deal for the league announced yesterday by Commissioner Stuart Johnston. And on its face, this looks like a big win for the league. Johnston himself wouldn't confirm numbers, but reporting from elsewhere says that the new deal represents a 60% increase over the previous deal. It broadens the distribution of games. YouTube is taking on some preseason games. Streaming service DAZN is taking on a handful of regular season games. And Johnston said yesterday that the CFL did not lack for interest in those media rights.
There is a significant increase. I'm just not going to go further than that. What I can say is that the value that the CFL can offer was duly recognized. We feel very good where we landed. And you watch the media industry. Right now, there is a lot of downward pressure on media rights, entertainment and sport. I'm very pleased to say that we bucked that trend and we feel very good where we've gotten to.
That new deal kicks in next year in 2027. The Bombers, by the way, are part of that slate of 4 preseason games tonight to finish out before the regular season. Home against the Lions tonight before opening the season on the road 1 week from today.
Let's go to the NHL now. The Habs are hoping to extend their playoff run with a win tonight in Carolina.
And climbing back into this series with the Hurricanes will not be easy. We have talked about the lack of offense for Montreal, the lack of execution. People on sports radio are already looking ahead to the offseason and writing off the Canadiens as though they are finished. Head coach Martin St. Louis says the team is blocking all of that out.
I don't think we've stopped and worried about everything that was talked about us, even today. I don't think we really care what people say about us. We gotten better every year without worrying what people think we should be or not be. And that, to me, that's just the noise. We don't worry about the noise. We just, we wake up every day trying to win the day, and that's what we're going to try to do.
If Habs fans are looking for hope, the team did come back from a 3-1 series deficit just 5 years ago. And the last team to win a conference final after trailing 3-1 was the 2000 New Jersey Devils. Part of that team was Claude Lemieux, the former Hab who died yesterday, who carried the torch out at Bell Center in Game 3. So inspiration there as well. Puck drop tonight is at 7 p.m.
Let's finish now with some tennis. Big news from the French Open.
Well, what a day for Canadian Victoria Mboko. Yes, she won her second-round match, but that is not what reporters wanted to talk to her about afterward, and that's because Serena Williams appears ready to make a comeback to tennis, and she wants to do it, according to reports, as part of a doubles pairing with Victoria Mboko. And so all of a sudden, in the middle of a Grand Slam, the 19-year-old Mboko has to answer questions about maybe playing next to one of the best of all time.
Me and Serena have stayed in touch, which is really, really nice because, I really look up to her. And the fact that she even knows me is it's very exciting. But I feel like if she's ready to come back on her own terms, then I feel like it's up to her to announce that.
From a PR perspective, expertly handled there by Mboko. We'll find out soon whether the Serena comeback is happening. She is apparently targeting the Queen's Club Championships for that comeback, and those start in just under 2 weeks. Mboko, by the way, in the middle of all of this, will play her third-round match tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Thanks, Corey.
That is Paul McGowan with your morning sports. Well, time now is 7:28. And in Winnipeg right now, we're sitting at 20, heading for a high today of 33. It's going to be a very similar case right across the province. We're sitting at 17 right now, heading for a high of 32 in Brandon. And Dauphin, you're sitting at 25 right now, actually. And your high today is going to be 35. In Thompson, a little cooler, but not that much. You're sitting at 19 right now with actually some light rain showers. So soak that up now because you're heading towards 30 today. Still to come here on Information Radio, an elementary class in Winnipeg has placed top 10 in one of CBC's 2026 music class challenges. We're going to be speaking to the kids who worked on the project and helped write their own original composition. So we're going to hear that. They're going to join us in studio to talk about that big achievement. That's coming up right here on Information Radio. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. That's coming up after your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is 21 in downtown Winnipeg, becoming a mix of sun and clouds today with that heat warning continuing as we continue to sweat it out at a high today of 33. Some British imports are on their way to help reinforce Manitoba's healthcare system. Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera flew to the UK last month, a country with overworked doctors and a paramedic hiring freeze in some areas. Asseguera returned with conditional deals to hire 24 doctors and 29 paramedics.
We recognize that in order to address the staffing challenges that we have in Manitoba, we've got to be willing to think outside the box.
Return of service agreements are one of the incentives Manitoba is using to lure new paramedics. Each new paramedic gets to keep a $20,000 bonus if they stay here for 4 years. You can hear more on this story coming up in this next half hour right here on Information Radio. Manitoba's budget bill has passed a final vote after long days and some nights of acrimonious debate. The move paves the way for the elimination of the provincial sales tax from snacks, soft drinks, and prepared meals at grocery and convenience stores starting July 1st. Premier Wapkin New's NDP government introduced the bill earlier this month, wanting it to pass into law before the legislative summer break which is expected to start on Monday. The opposition Progressive Conservatives spent hours, including 2 late-night sittings this week, demanding the government add an income tax cut to the bill. Heat warnings continue for most of Manitoba today. Louis Kohani, a meteorologist at Environment Canada.
Expecting warm temperatures and even during the day and during the night, and it's going to until the beginning of next week, and dry conditions as well.
In Winnipeg, you can cool off inside some community centers, library and recreation facilities, and kids can enjoy splash pads around the city. Mike Olchuk, the city's emergency management coordinator, says 9 drinking water stations have been set up in central neighborhoods.
A really good opportunity to get access to safe, clean drinking water during these times. They're here all of the time. They're not time limited, so any time of the day that anyone would need to access them.
You can find a list of spots where you can cool down on the City of Winnipeg's website. A 28-year-old Canadian fugitive on the run for years has been arrested in Mexico. As CBC's Santiago Arias Orozco tells us, the BC man is wanted in Manitoba on drug-related charges.
Denis Ipsico has been on the run since 2022, wanted by the RCMP. Back then, he was charged in connection to what police dubbed Project Divergent. That investigation infiltrated an international trafficking operation smuggling drugs into Manitoba. Ipsico, who is from BC's Lower Mainland, fled before he could be arrested. During the trial of another man charged in Project Divergent, court heard Ipsico sold multiple kilograms of methamphetamine to a drug dealer turned informant, helping the RCMP. After 4 years fleeing from authorities, Ipsico was arrested in the Mexican state of Quintana Roo 2 weeks ago. Canada's Justice Department says he's now facing extradition proceedings on charges including conspiracy to traffic a controlled substance. Santiago Arias Orozco, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Brandon truck driver is angry traffic lights aren't functioning at the scene of a fatal crash. A 49-year-old woman died after her SUV was hit by a semi-truck in Brandon on Wednesday. Police say that big truck failed to stop. Trucker John Harrower says traffic lights were installed at that intersection last summer. He wants to know why they still aren't working.
When they started installing the lights, I personally was hoping that it wasn't going to take very long for them to do the work and to get them activated. Well, like I said, they've been up for a substantial amount of time now, and they aren't even running yet.
The driver of the semi is charged with dangerous driving causing death. At least 2 people are injured after a Russian drone hit an apartment building in Romania overnight. The drone hit a 10-story residential block in the city of Galați, which sits right near Romania's borders with Ukraine and Moldova. Romania's defense ministry says Russian drones breached its airspace 47 times during the war in Ukraine, but this is the first time a drone has actually hit a densely populated area and caused injuries. American Stephen Evelyn lives in the city and calls the strike deliberate provocation.
I don't believe this was an accident. This has happened too many times for the Russians to be doing this by accident. Either that or they're highly incompetent at waging war, but NATO needs to do something about this.
You can hear more on this story and other national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. Well, Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Steinbach, cities on a national tour. Hail, the band you hear now, is one of 3 acts performing original Filipino music in Steinbach. It is the first time Steinbach's Southeast Event Center is hosting a national tour with bands from overseas, and it's exciting news for Christian Arellano, who lives in Steinbach.
Awesome, because I've been here in Canada, I should say, for 12 years now, and it's weird, you saw them there when I was still actually in my younger years, and now I'm in my 40s and I'm gonna see them again, and I should say they're gonna play probably the same songs. Right?
And Kundiman's promoters are bringing more Filipino bands to Steinbach in July. You can find more news on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Oh, thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is Heather Wells at your CBC News desk. Well, Abby Adeyemi, let's check in with the weather because it's a hot one today, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be hot and humid across, but under this significant heat wave that we're seeing across the regions, hence the heat warnings in effect across the province, as intense temperatures will be stretching from the south into the far northern part of the province. Here in Winnipeg, we're beginning the morning with this humid 21 degrees at this time, partly cloudy. The sun really breaking through out there. Expect a hot day ahead as we climb towards a high of 34 later in the day. The winds remain breezy out at some point from the south, so look out for that through the morning and into the afternoon period. And we're going to see these warm conditions even continue into the overnight and evening period. It's really going to be feeling muggy with temperatures just only going to drop to about 21 overnight, so not really going to be cool enough. And we're looking at Saturday also seeing 30 degrees across the southern regions from Morden, Winkler, Port Perry, Brandon, all the way towards Gimli this morning. Temperatures really going to be climbing into the low 30s very fast. Expect sunny to cloudy conditions in most of the regions. While up north, conditions are also hot and active, while the regions see temperatures ranging from the mid-teens to the low 20s this morning. Daytime highs will be reaching the low 30s in around the Pond Thompson, where a risk of thunder showers are still persistent. Currently in the Thompson area, we have light rain showers with temperatures around 19 degrees, and then further north, Churchill remains cooler with highs just around 15 degrees for today. Churchill, we're looking at temperatures just sitting at 4 at this time, so it's more like a prolonged heat event across the province into the weekend and even into early next week. But Winnipeg right now, we're looking at 21 and we're heading to 34.
Thank you very much, Abby. And Sierra Sanders is in with a look at your commute. Hello.
Hi, Corey. Yeah, the commute's looking pretty good right now. Haven't received any calls on the commuter line. So that to me sounds like things are moving along there on your morning commute. But if that does change, whether you are here in Winnipeg or anywhere else in the province, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Sierra. And if I sounded a little bit delayed, it's because I was distracted by these wonderful guests we have here in studio with us here. They're one of two classes from Manitoba that made it to the top 10 of CBC's 2026 Music Class Challenge, and in the category of original elementary performance. So kids and teachers from across Canada submitted original songs and performances for this competition, and Faraday School and Isaac Brock School from Winnipeg were the finalists. And now, this morning, we do know the result. We're going to share it on the radio right away. So Faraday School chose the Olympics as the theme for this project, and their original song is called Rise to the Challenge. Here's a snippet of that song. Faraday School from Winnipeg performing their original song, Rise to the Challenge, for CBC's 2026 Music Class Challenge. And Madly Friesen is the performing arts teacher at the elementary school. We're also joined here in studio by Nevin Boudreau, who's in grade 2. Good morning, Nevin.
Good morning.
Good morning, Madly. We also have Bellatrix Roebuck, who is in grade 3. And they both worked on the song and performance alongside their classmates. So, Bellatrix, actually, I heard you humming along to the song. What was it like hearing your voice on the radio?
It was kind of nerve-wracking because this is my first time being on the radio.
Yeah, well, we're so happy to have you here. How much work was it to make this song?
It was kind of hard because we had to make all the notes, we had to make some words up for the song.
What? So you wrote all the notes and the words?
Yeah, but also Nevin did.
Nevin, tell me about that. What was that like having to write a song?
It was amazing, good. I want to be an artist, so.
Oh, do you? Okay, so what kind of stuff did you enjoy about writing your own original song? How hard was it to make the words?
Horn.
Yeah. What kind of inspiration do you look to? Because it was Olympics inspired, right? So what kind of stuff did you think about when you were thinking about writing the words as a class? What about you, Bellatrix? Do you remember what that was like? Did you all work together as a team?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd sit and write the words. And Madly, I want to bring you in here. What was it like for you as a teacher trying to write a song with a bunch of elementary school kids together?
It was very fun. I would say chaotic at some times. But one of the best parts was just having, at times, up to 40 kids in the room and trying to throw out all these ideas. Nevin's really good at throwing out ideas from his brain and saying, oh, let's talk about teamwork, and this is what it's like to be on a team. Oh. And so this is what we should include in the song. He had his hand raised, I think, the entire process. He's got so many ideas. But we also used our bodies to kind of body storm some ideas. So we would act out what it was like to do a hockey game or a different kind of sport and then get ideas from acting that out.
Oh, that's a cool idea. So so that must have been really fun. So what kind of sports were you doing when you were body storming?
Like hockey?
Okay, that's cool. Well, before we talk more about the song, I actually do have a little bit of breaking news for you guys. So we got some news to share with you. So the results are in, and guess what, guys? Your hard work paid off. Your class won for best original elementary school performance.
No.
Really?
You sure did.
No.
How does that feel? Yeah, you guys win. Yeah, you're the winners.
No.
Well, congratulations, guys. How's it feel there, Bellatrix, to be the winner for this?
It feels really exciting.
Good. What about you, Nevin?
Exciting and amazing.
Yeah. Well, all that hard work, creativity really paid off, and for you, Madly, I know lots of work for you as well.
Lots of work, but so proud of these students. They worked so hard over a couple of months. They performed it at a couple school assemblies, and we're just so proud of all the work you have done and all those ideas you brought. Way to go, Winnipeg. Way to go, North End.
Woohoo! Congrats, guys. So why did you choose the Olympics as your theme?
Ooh, because we had Olympics at our school and we're gonna do a closing ceremony.
Oh, that's great. And what was your favorite thing to watch in the Olympics?
I think I really liked watching the hockey players and the dancers.
Okay. And so just walk me through the process. We talked about the body storming. So from the get-go, your class, you decided, Madly, let's write a song with 40 kids.
Yep.
Yeah. So and Bellatrix, Nevin, when your teacher said, "Hey guys, we're gonna write a song together," what went through your mind?
I was thinking maybe a song for the end of our Olympics, and I was like, ooh, maybe we can write an Olympic song.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's so cool. And tell me a little bit about Madly, what it was like watching the students really get excited about this like Bellatrix and Nevin have.
It's so awesome to watch them be so excited and for them both to throw out so many ideas. Bellatrix had so many musical ideas, like, oh, we're singing the word rise and soar, so our notes should go up, they should go higher.
Oh, that's a really good idea, Bellatrix.
Lots of different great ideas. It was so fun to watch them throw out the ideas of what does it mean to be an athlete and what does it mean to be a team, and they already have such strong ideas on how what does it take to be a good team member. They already have such strong ideas about caring for others and inspiring yourself and staying true to yourself. So that was just so awesome to see them be creative and take those risks throughout that whole process. And now to see you be number one, to have that process paid off so well.
That's great. Well, what was the hardest part about making this song?
I think the number of kids we had meant we had so many ideas. So we had to, especially with Bellatrix's class, we worked with 2 different classes and their teachers. Their teachers really supported the learning as well. So it wasn't just me and 40 kids. It was 3 teachers and 40 kids. It was awesome. But to see, especially when we were doing the notes, Bellatrix, when we used that software, we had to decide, and we had to vote, and we had to talk about which notes match the words better. And we had to make those decisions as a group. And as that process went on, it got a little bit easier to do that every time.
Well, so there you had to choose every note for the song. What was that like?
It was pretty hard, but it was kind of easy.
Wait, hard and easy. So how is it hard? Let's start with that. Tell me about it.
The hard part is trying to think of good notes to match the rest of the song.
Oh, okay. And then why was it easy?
The easy part because like I really like singing, so I think I had good notes for the song.
Mm-hmm. So now you guys have this huge achievement under your belts. You guys won the competition. How does this inspire you? Did you guys want to go do more music in your future?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of musicians do you want to be? What's your favorite thing? Did you like to sing? Do you like to play instruments? Let's start with you, Nevin.
Instruments.
Instruments. What's your favorite instrument?
Drum.
Okay. Why do you like to play the drums?
It's just good. I like it. It has a good bass.
Oh yeah, I like that. Kind of get to drive the song forward. What about you, Bellatrix? What's your favorite music to make? Do you like to sing? Do you like to play instrument? What's your favorite way to make music?
My favorite way, I would say maybe singing, because like then I know what notes I'm gonna sing, and like it's easier than always just trying to find out all the notes on pianos, drums, and stuff.
Okay, that's great. And for you, Madly, I know there's also a video component to this. Tell us about that.
So for the challenge this year, the parameters were that most of the video had to be your class standing and singing. But when we talk about the Olympics, we're talking about sports, we're talking about hard work. So we thought, there's kind of a visual element to this. So we storyboarded together who's going to do what sports are we going to show. And so if you watch our video, it's a lot of our students singing as a choir, as a group, but we also did some extra footage, extra shots of us acting out different sports and acting out what it's like to be a team.
And what are you guys doing in the video?
There was a lot of hockey. There was actually one of my friends, Trinity, catching a ball, and like we rode a sled to be like a bobsled.
Oh, what? Was it toboggan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun. That's so silly.
Imagination.
They use a lot of imagination. Well, that's awesome. Well, so for both of you, what's your advice? Next year there might be another class looking to do this. What's your advice to other students who want to write their own song and make their own music? I'll start with you, Bellatrix.
I would say keep going and try your hard work and try and find the best music notes.
and you, Nevin, what's your advice to other students who want to go and try their hand at writing their own music?
Try the best and do try hard.
And Madly, finally to you, last word to teachers who are interested in exploring collaborative songwriting with students, with large groups of students especially. What's your advice to educators going forward?
Just go for it. There's so many tools out there. We actually originally wrote our song with the words. We came up with the words and sang it to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, because then we had music, and then slowly we changed those notes. So it took a while for us to switch from singing Twinkle Twinkle, but get those ideas down. It doesn't have to be perfect to go on the page.
Love it. Well, thank you all very much for joining us, and congrats once again on winning. Yay! Madly Friesen is the performing arts teacher at Faraday School. Nevin Boudreau is in grade 2, and Bellatrix Roebuck is in grade 3. And they helped write an original song, Rise to the Challenge, alongside their classmates. And it won Best Original Elementary Performance in CBC 2026 Music Class Challenge. And here, some more of that song. students with their new winning song, Rise to the Challenge. You heard it right here on CBC Radio 1. Well, time now is 7:51. You're listening to Information Radio here. I'm Corey Funk in for Marcy Marcusa. Well, next up here on the show, 53 healthcare workers are coming to Manitoba. That's according to Health Minister Uzoma Asagwara. And this comes after a recruiting trip to the UK. 24 physicians received invitations to apply letters if they meet eligibility requirements, and 29 paramedics have signed conditional offers. Asagwara says the new paramedics signed return of service agreements. It's a financial incentive for those agreeing to work in certain locations, and they'll receive an additional $20,000 for working 4 years. The CBC's Ian Frey spoke with Jason Linklater, president of the Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals.
Sounds like it's been very successful. We're certainly supportive of that. But really, it should be used as an adjunct and as a bridging and not a long-term approach towards solving the paramedic crisis in Manitoba in terms of recruitment and retention.
You do call it very successful. Is 29 a good number?
I do think it's a good number. I mean, it could have been 0. So right now at this point in time, and over the past 4 years, we have not had a big increase in paramedic uptake. And so this is a really good thing to hopefully get Manitoba to a place where we're growing our own and engaging our young people here to become paramedics. We are certainly glad to see rural Manitoba, particularly in the rural areas where this is focused, get access to paramedics at a very important time of year. People are heading out on vacations in summertime on the highways, and we're into fire season as well. So, I mean, some of the numbers that I did receive from our government in terms of information was that 200 people registered to come hear about these jobs here in Manitoba. Over 100 attended, and we ended up with 29 conditional letters of offer put out. So there probably is a situation in the UK right now that is working to our advantage. I don't see that lasting forever. I do know that some of the paramedics in the UK that are coming back here are Manitoba paramedics that have left. So whether the paramedics who are actually from the UK stay here permanently, time will tell. We'll know in the next 24 months if that is what ends up happening. But, certainly the situation in the UK, all of the reasons there that they seem to have people leaving is something that we can take advantage of right now. And we need them in Manitoba, that's for sure.
Do return of service agreements work in the paramedic landscape?
That's a good question. I would say it's largely untested in terms of paramedic specific tools, but I do know that return of service agreements in other areas that I am more familiar with are very successful. We've seen those applied across different occupations in allied health, very often in like one-off circumstances, but they are certainly a useful tool, and we would like to see the province utilize that methodology more.
You keep referring to that this is a good bridge, but it's not a good long-term piece. Why not?
The lasting solution is to have occupations that are an integrated part of a workforce plan. And we need to have that training in place for paramedics. The communities need them. We have seen an increase in seats at some of the colleges. I know that there's also talk of increased seats at Assiniboine College as well. We saw increased seats at the University College of the North for the Thompson and the Paw as well. So, but what I think is missing, and it's a really important point, we know that EMR, which stands for Emergency Medical Responder, is a much shorter program. And what we need to see is a pathway for EMRs to become primary care paramedics. It is, I believe, one of the strongest tools we could have in terms of moving people up and keeping them local. EMR training was recently raised, and I think the people who will go into that will look at paramedicine as a career. And education and training takes time, and that's precisely why the near-term recruitment that we're seeing here with the UK is important.
That was the president of the Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals, Jason Linklater, speaking about paramedics coming to Manitoba. And if you want to know more about this story, you can visit cbc.ca/Manitoba. Well, time now is 7:56, and we are sitting at 20 degrees right now in Winnipeg, heading for a high today of 33, and it's going to be mainly sunny. If we're looking into the weekend and you're wondering, it's going to be a hot scorcher of a weekend ahead in southern Manitoba and northern Manitoba as well. Highs of 30 and sunny, both on Saturday and Sunday. Up in Thompson, very similar case as well. 29 is your high on Saturday, 32 is your high on Sunday. And still to come here on Information Radio, this next half hour of the show, we're going to head to the North End where they're gearing up for another year of their Culture Fest. So we're going to hear about the importance that festival has to the community. Right now at 7:57, let's check in with Heather Wells with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, late nights of debate are over after Manitoba's budget bill has now passed its final vote. There have been long days in the chamber. The passage is paving the way for the elimination of the provincial sales tax on snacks, soft drinks, and prepared meals starting July 1st. A Brandon truck driver is angry traffic lights aren't functioning at the scene of a fatal crash. A 49-year-old woman died after her SUV was hit by the big truck on Wednesday. Police say the semi failed to stop. Trucker John Harrower says traffic lights were installed at that intersection last summer, and he wants to know why they aren't functioning yet. We'll hear more in our next local news at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That's Heather Wells at your CBC News Desk. We got a call on the commuter line. Jacqueline called and said an accident in the southbound curb lane of the Salter Bridge looks to have just happened. No emergency vehicles on scene yet. If you see anything else, you can give our commuter line a call. Sierra is standing by, 204-788-3093. This is Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. We'll be back after World Report. Stay tuned.
On cue. You might know Paul Gross from his time on the hit Canadian show Due South. Paul will be here to tell you about the time they almost literally blew up one of Canada's most famous music venues shooting that show.
No, there's a huge amount of dynamite.
His new role in Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, and why he thinks that play is one of the great feats of human civilization.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10, 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Rebecca Zanbergen. As the war in Ukraine enters day 1,556, we'll talk to Russian dissident and former political prisoner in Russia, Vladimir Kara-Murza, about the situation on the ground in Kiev and Moscow. Coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. We begin with news that Canada is slipping into a technical recession. Statistics Canada reports that economic growth stalled in the first quarter of the year, with real gross domestic product turning slightly negative on an annualized basis. The CBC's Peter Armstrong has more.
This was quite unexpected, and with a decline of 0.2% in the first quarter of this year, added to a decline in the final quarter of last year, that meets the technical definition of a recession and blows up the core narrative that Canada's resilience has kept the economy completely out of the ditch during this crisis. The miss on the forecast here is definitely worth mentioning. Economists had been expecting a GDP report with something closer to 1.5 or 1.7%, which would have been a quite healthy number. Instead, we have this contraction and indeed a technical recession for the first time since 2020. Now, the preliminary estimate for April suggests the economy bounced back largely on the back of oil and gas exports. But for all the people out there that have been saying it feels like a recession in the Canadian economy, it turns out they weren't wrong. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
U.S. officials are signaling that a major deal with Iran is close. So far, no green light from the White House, and Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency reports a deal has been neither finalized nor confirmed. The CBC's Willie Lowry is in Jerusalem. So, Willie, what's the latest on the talk of a deal?
John, it appears that a deal is close. U.S. sources confirmed yesterday that an agreement had been reached that would extend this fragile ceasefire for another 60 days. But President Donald Trump wanted a little more time to ruminate on it before signing it. Speaking at Joint Base Andrews, Vice President J.D. Vance seemed to push back on that notion.
We've already decimated their conventional military, and we're in a position where we could substantially set back their nuclear program, not just during the term of this president, but over the long term. That's a very, very good thing for the American people. So we're not there yet, but we're very close, and we're going to keep on working at it.
The broad contours of the deal center around the conflict ending and the Strait of Hormuz reopening. The two countries would then keep working over the coming months on the fate of Iran's enriched uranium and the country's nuclear program.
So, Willie, how is Israel responding to the possibility that a deal could be close?
A big question in all of these negotiations is whether it will include Lebanon or not. The Israeli military in recent days has significantly ramped up its operations there. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered the IDF to intensify its campaign in southern Lebanon. Israeli troops have crossed over the Litani River that cuts across much of southern Lebanon. And on Thursday, the Israeli military hit a Beirut suburb for the first time in several weeks. Israel has also intensified its operations in Gaza. Netanyahu ordered the military to take control of 70% of the territory. John, that's significantly more than was agreed upon in last October's ceasefire deal.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Jerusalem. Thanks, Willie.
My pleasure.
Oh my gosh.
What is
no
that?
way. No freaking way. What is that?
Something exploded.
An eyewitness records the moment a heavy lift rocket owned by billionaire Jeff Bezos explodes on a Florida launch pad. The uncrewed New Glenn rocket exploded during a routine engine test at Cape Canaveral. The massive next-generation rocket is the exact vehicle Blue Origin plans to use to launch lunar landers to the moon for NASA. Company officials are downplaying the blast, saying the rocket merely experienced an anomaly. Bezos says all launch pad personnel are accounted for and safe. Police in Kenya say they've arrested 8 people in connection with a deadly fire at a girls' school north of Nairobi. All of them are students at the school and have been detained on suspicion of arson. The fire tore through a school dormitory overnight Wednesday, killing 16 children. Dozens more were injured. More than 200 students were sleeping inside the building when the fire broke out. The Ottawa Police Service says it has charged 2 men following a multi-jurisdictional investigation that focused on criminal harassment and the online exploitation of women, including AI-generated nude deepfakes. One of the men is facing 79 charges. The case involves at least 24 women. We want to warn you that the content the women describe is graphic, violent, and includes references to rape. The CBC's Kayla Hounsell has been speaking with many of them and has their stories.
It was very sobering.
We were identifying her by her initials, KS, because her identity is protected by a court-ordered publication ban. She is one of up to 25 alleged victims identified in documents currently before the court. The Ottawa Police Service says the case involves the alleged misuse of emerging technologies to create and distribute harmful sexual content without consent. CBC News has spoken with 10 women who describe violent and graphic imagery that includes their real faces in AI-generated scenes, including rape, torture, bondage, and kidnapping. They live in Nova Scotia, Ontario, and Nunavut. 60-year-old Stephen Lowe of Maitland, Nova Scotia, is facing 79 charges, including harassment, uttering threats, possessing and publishing obscene material, and child sexual abuse material. A second man is also facing charges. These allegations have not been proven in court.
I think Canada is far behind on an issue that we've been aware of for about a decade.
Susie Dunn is the director of the Law and Technology Institute at Dalhousie University. She and KS are calling for stronger legislation, and a bill that would specifically criminalize deepfakes has been winding its way through Parliament.
You have people in your life that you would be devastated to hear that this happened to.
The women involved in this case are imploring politicians not to delay. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
The Saskatchewan legislature is undergoing some long overdue renovations. Right now, male politicians have a private washroom with multiple stalls and urinals, but female MLAs, who make up nearly 30% of the legislature, have to share just one single stall. Now, a former office is finally being turned into a proper private washroom for women. The CBC's Colleen Silverthorne has the story.
It's 2026. It's been a long time. We've had a female member. The first one was, in 1919.
Iris Lang has worked at Saskatchewan's legislative building for 41 years. As clerk of the Assembly, she's watched the number of women elected as MLAs grow, but their bathroom space has stayed the same. One stall for everyone to share.
There has been a need, and now there's more and more women, and it's just equitable.
Long overdue, a new bathroom is nearly complete for female MLAs, with multiple stalls and a family change room. It's retaining the legislature's charm, complete with an oak fireplace and soaring windows. NDP MLA Kim Breckner says it's about time. She has a 5-month-old who she brought to work this week, since MLAs don't get maternity leave, and she's not alone.
There's a lot of instances where we're going to have to bring our babies, and to see that kind of level of we want you here, we're going to make these facilities available to you. It makes this a whole lot easier.
As for Lang, the new bathroom is in her old office. She pushed to get the project done and helped get the money, $200,000, approved. Lang plans to retire in 2 years and says it'll be a great legacy to leave behind. Colleen Silverthorne, CBC News, Regina.
And finally,
I feel like you're Indiana Jones, open a one of those caves. It could be nothing. It could be something.
with tangled cobwebs hanging from the ceiling and a pleasant, musky sweetness in the air, but no snakes. A suburban wine vault once owned by Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin has been unsealed in Georgia. The dim cellar looks like a sunken pirate ship, more that than a treasure trove, but it holds 40,000 rare bottles, including some seized from the Russian Tsar's family during the 1917 revolution.
This cellar is an amazing cellar. In my life, I don't see it's like a pantheon of the wine here.
The Georgian government plans to auction off the historic stash to fund a world-class wine school. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. Remember, for news anytime, go to our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. Happy Friday. It's May 29th, and there is a yellow heat warning in effect for much of the province, pretty much everywhere but Churchill. We're going to get the details coming up just ahead on just how hot of a day we have and how hot of a weekend we have ahead as well. Also coming up this half hour on the show, diversity is in the spotlight this weekend in the North End. Coming up, we're going to hear from the organizers of the North End Neighbors Culture Fest to learn about who is involved and what that event is all about. That's coming up right here on Information Radio. Stay tuned. At 8:11, let's check in with Heather Wells with a look at your news headlines.
Good morning. Well, some British imports are now on their way to help reinforce Manitoba's healthcare system. Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera flew to the UK last month, a country with overworked doctors and a paramedic hiring freeze in some parts. Asseguera returned with conditional deals to hire 24 doctors and 29 paramedics. We'll hear details of that. As well, people in the RM of Kelsey near the Pas are on edge this morning. Fire shut down Highway 10 in that area yesterday. The highway has since reopened, and we're going to hear how the firefight's going coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby Adiemi is in with a look at your very hot forecast. Hello.
Yeah, it's a hot one starting into the weekend. Manitoba really under this widespread heat warning. We're talking about temperatures getting into the mid-30s in the southern parts of the province, and we'll see close to 30s up north as you head towards Lynn Lake, and this would be stretching into the weekend and even into mid next week. But for here in Winnipeg, we are seeing partly cloudy skies at this time. Current temperatures hovering near 24 degrees. Expect a sunny day as we climb towards a high of 33 today. Some windy conditions expected throughout. Tonight remains warm and muggy. We're going to see temperatures only get to 20. And then similar conditions we're seeing across the south. In the Pembina Valley region, we're seeing 25 degrees there, warming to 33. In the Westman region, we're seeing 21, warming close to 33. Also, in the Parkland region, 27 already at this time. You get to 35, while in the Interlake region, you warm up close to 33 degrees. You're currently around 21. Far north, we're seeing 20s to 24 around the Pas Flin Flon towards Norway House, while for Thompson region, we're seeing 19 degrees there. Most of those regions will get to the highs in the 30s today, while for Churchill, we're looking at just a high of 15 today. Current temperature 6 degrees. Winnipeg, we are currently around, let's just put it at 23 at this time, and we get to 33 later.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Sierra, what's going on with the commute?
Yeah, Corey, we were talking about that collision just before we went into the news there on the Salter Bridge. So there is a collision blocking the southbound curb lane on the Salter Bridge. Emergency crews are on the scene, but you want to keep left to pass and expect southbound delays there, as I know that does get a little bit busier there during the morning rush hour, I should say. As well, just a notice from the province of Manitoba that this weekend is the annual highway cleanup here in Manitoba. So groups across Manitoba will be cleaning up the highways, making sure things are looking really good out there. So you want to make sure you're using caution there if you are out on the highways and see those folks in their high-vis vests, making sure our highways are looking pretty clean out there. Still a little bit of time left in the show, though, so if there is something that pops up here on your commute, give me a call. That number is 204-788-3093.
Well, diversity is being celebrated this weekend in the North End. The third annual North End Neighbors Culture Fest is happening tomorrow. It's a celebration of multiculturalism hosted by a wide range of ethnic and community-based organizations. It'll feature multicultural food, entertainment, displays, and activities. And Ralph Paul is one of the MCs of the event and a member of the Haitian community. We're also joined by Michael Redhead Champagne. He's an Indigenous activist and will be MCing the event as well. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Ralph, I want to start with you. Just tell us about, your connection to the North End and how long you lived there for.
Well, that's the beauty about the North End Neighbors Cultural Fest is that I don't live in the North End. I live in Transcona. But this is a party that is not just for North End. It is for the whole Winnipeg to join us, and wherever you may live. Saturday afternoon is gonna be the place to be. The weather is supposed to be nice, and we are expecting to have a lot of people showing up. So come and celebrate with the North End, like I'm gonna be doing tomorrow.
And yourself, Michael, you have deep connections, obviously, in the North End. Just tell us a little bit about what you love about the community.
Certainly. Well, for me, as somebody who has lived in the North End pretty much my entire life, I just love the people in the North End. I think North End's got the best people. And it's the North End Neighbors Culture Fest really gives us a chance to celebrate the awesomeness of our neighbors in the neighborhood, but also it's an invitation for us as North Enders to say to the rest of Winnipeg, come visit us. Come visit us as your neighbor, and come and celebrate the rich and diverse cultures that we have in the North End of Winnipeg.
And what do you think it is that makes the North End so unique?
Well, I think the North End, since the inception of Winnipeg, has always been a certain kind of place for the city, right? It's where the working class and lower income folks go. That's where a lot of really important social movements have arisen out of. It's a place where culture has always been essential. Even back in the founding of Winnipeg, culture was especially important for those Eastern European cultures and communities that were coming in and making the North End their home. And today, the North End is an increasingly diverse place with Indigenous and newcomer communities coming from so many different places around the world, continuing to have culture as, our North Star, telling us how to be good neighbors.
And how has it changed, since you were a kid, the North End?
Well, of course, the North End has definitely changed. Some of the things that have happened is it feels like there are sometimes less opportunities for us to get together these days. And so the North End Neighbors Culture Fest is, a throwback to those times where we used to get together more often as a community and invite our friends from other neighborhoods to come to the North End and say, this is what's up here. We got good people. We got good food. We have a beautiful culture, and we're excited to share it.
Mm-hmm. So let's turn back to the festival there, Ralph. So tell us a little bit about the event tomorrow. What's happening?
Well, like you said, it's our third annual event tomorrow, and it runs from 12 to 4 p.m. And we're going to have a little bit to eat, free food, and we're going to have a free beverage, non-alcoholic that is. And we're going to have a lot of dancers and singers. We're also going to have some activities. A lot of the participants, they're going to be showcase their culture via their craft and so on. And there's going to be some, library info table there. I think there's going to be some face painting. There's going to be a chess table there. So it's going to be a lot of things.
Right. So this is a totally free event. People come up, do their thing?
Yes, it is a free event. You just come, bring your friends, your family members, and come and enjoy a good afternoon with the North End neighbors.
And pretty good food, I'm guessing. Then, what's the food like?
Well, the food is going to be a variety of food. I think there's going to be some samosa. There's going to be some Jamaican patties. There's going to be some...
some hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
Oh, bannock and hot dogs. Great.
Yes. So there's going to be a variety of food that you will be able to enjoy tomorrow afternoon.
Great. And why did this is the third annual now? Why did this event start in the first place? Was it kind of like you said there, Michael? Like it doesn't feel like people get together the same as they used to?
Well, this event itself was initiated by the Association of United Ukrainian Canadians out of the Ukrainian Labor Temple. So a lot of Winnipeggers will know that historic building on McGregor and Pritchard. So the folks at the Ukrainian Labor Temple 3 years ago said, we have so many amazing neighbors in the North End and we don't have enough opportunities to celebrate them. And so they took the lead in inviting folks together to say, let's bring these different cultural groups together and see what kind of a cool party we can have. And so it's been really fun. The first year I was involved, I was able to go there and share my first children's book. The second year I went there and shared a little bit of language programming. This year I'll be there talking a little bit about the group North End history and our plans for the Palace Theatre alongside all of the exciting things that Ralph just listed.
Mm-hmm. And they're even inviting Transconians to come like Ralph. But Ralph, why did you want to get involved as someone who's not necessarily from the North End but lives in Transcona?
Well, this is very interesting. I was participant in the first event. And a friend of mine invited me to the event, to the committee actually. And it turns out that he's been so busy now, he wasn't really a close participant in the event there. But nonetheless, I find that it was very interesting event. It was worth it to stay with the event. So we start to meet every year at the beginning of January. And then we kind of meet every once a month. And as it gets closer to the event itself, then we start meeting like 3 times a month kind of thing. And I find some very interesting people in the committee and in the northern neighborhood. So I said, well, this is, I find myself at home. So I said, well, I'm going to stay on the committee as long as Michael and the other folks want me in the committee. I'll be a part of the committee. So I feel at home, and I think we invite everybody else from wherever you may be in Winnipeg to come and join us.
Mm-hmm. And actually, before they go here too, Michael, so you're also holding the first community consultation for the historic Palace Theater. So just tell us what the story is there as well, because it's also a very North End story.
Certainly. Well, on Selkirk Avenue, there's this old theater that was built in 1912. And we have a dream of turning that old theater into a North End Arts and Culture Center. So this Saturday at the North End Neighbors Culture Fest, there will be a variety of tables from community organizations. But one of those tables will be the North End History Table, where we'll be asking folks, what would you like to see in a North End Arts and Culture Center? And how would you like to see the Palace Theater? 501 Selkirk Avenue, for those of you that are listening and want to Google it. 501 Selkirk Avenue, what do you want it to look like? And what type of programming would you like this building to share and serve our community with?
Okay, and because this was donated from the U of M, right? Essentially, this building. So now it's the communities, and now you're working on that. So what have you heard from people of what they want to see at the building?
Well, I think a lot of people want it to be a place where we can host events like the North End Neighbors Culture Fest, for example, right? We want it to be a place where community members can come together and we can celebrate all of the rich arts, culture, and diverse talents that we have in the North End of Winnipeg. We got such skill and talent and beautiful abilities in the North End that we need a stage. And so hopefully the Palace Theater, with the help of North Enders, will be able to become a stage.
And how close is it to becoming that? Like, what's the next steps?
Oh, my goodness. It's not very close yet, but the steps are we're going to do some community consultations in the coming weeks and months. And so the first one will be at the North End Neighbors Culture Fest. The second one will be with the Winnipeg Indigenous Friendship Center in the beginning of June. And there will be subsequent ones after that. But it's all to celebrate the neighborhood and to see what we can do about bringing some of these North End neighbors together more than just one time a year.
Great. Well, thank you both for coming, and all the best for the event this weekend. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you for having us and to come and share with you the event that is taking place tomorrow. And we hope to have a lot of your listeners to come tomorrow afternoon and join us to that big party.
Yeah, certainly.
Come on down to the North End, everybody. We can't wait to see you.
See you there. Ralph Paul is one of the MCs of the event and a member of the Haitian community. And Michael Redhead Champagne is also going to be an MC and is an Indigenous activist. The North End Neighbors Culture Fest is happening tomorrow. It's free and kicks off at 12 p.m. at the Ukrainian Labor Temple. That's at 591 Pritchard Avenue.
Manitoba may have a reputation for being cold and flat, but our podcast isn't. I'm Marcy Marcusa, the warmest host on the prairies. Even when my podcast, This is Manitoba, is exploring some challenging issues. I'm never flat when it comes to holding our leaders to account. Some of those interviews have been called spicy. If you care about this province, check out This is Manitoba, with new episodes dropping every Wednesday.
On the topics that matter, your voice should be heard.
It looks like this is maybe a one-day blip when farmers across the province need hot and dry.
Radio Noon is where you can voice your take.
In general, it's harder to find a job even if you're educated.
I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. From 12:15 to 1 p.m., Radio Noon opens the phone lines on one important topic.
When I was 5 or 6, my parents gave me seeds and helped me plant them. That was probably close to 70 years ago. And here I am still gardening.
It just brings everyone together. Radio Noon's call-in segment, 204-780-0893. We want to hear from you weekdays on CBC.
Well, it is 8:25 right now, and already it is 23 degrees here in Winnipeg at the Forks. And a very similar forecast pretty much right across the province. There's a yellow heat warning in effect pretty much everywhere in Manitoba except for Churchill. Jacqueline called the commuter line, says there's an accident in southbound curb lane of the Salter Bridge, and it looks to have just happened, and emergency vehicles are now on scene. Well, with all this heat, we thought we'd play a little bit of music for you. Here's Manitoba's own Begonia with Hotter Than the Sun. You're hearing it right here on CBC Radio 1.
Of my bed. Some things I'm quick to tend to, others overwhelm me, yeah. All often therapized, then intellectualized. Why there's something inside that makes me wanna hate myself. My need for validation, self-asphyxiation of my medication. Oh, and then an everyday sedation, my sexual frustration. Service stations to the novelty worth it. I'm coming up for air, change the color of my hair, brought a bag of what I used to wear into the cell, yeah. 'Cause moving on for me felt just like gravity. I pulled the arrow back and swore I hit a bullseye. Yeah, fear of everyone, lack of having fun, got me feeling numb. I had such desire for control, scared of getting old, finally let that go. So turn off all that bed never made. I get people paid, play video games, then take you to the hamster living in my brain. On the run, clown for everyone, harder than the sun. No ceiling to the woman that I would be dead never made. I get people paid, play video games, yeah. Now I'm having fun.
That's Manitoba's own Begonia with Hotter Than the Sun. Well, in with us now is Marjorie Dowhouse, host of Radio Noon, to tell you a little bit about what's coming up on the call-in today. Hello.
Well, speaking of hotter than the sun, what will help you cool off in this heat? Ice cream.
Ooh.
So our call-in today is all focused on ice cream. Favorite flavors, favorite place to go, hidden gem out there. Maybe there's a story about ice cream. I know last year we did an ice cream call-in, and people had some really fun stories about blue licorice. I'd never had it before. Didn't realize it was, the ice cream. Didn't realize it was such a Manitoba thing, but it actually brought up a lot of memories for people of summer and that flavor in particular. So coming up on the show today, we're going to be hearing from someone in Morris who is selling ice cream on a bike. We're also going to learn a little bit about the history of ice cream.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I'm a boring vanilla guy. That's my take. Vanilla every time.
Nothing wrong with that.
Just keep it simple. Thank you very much, Marjorie.
Thanks, Corey.
Marjorie Dowhouse, host of Radio Noon. You can catch her for that call-in today after 12:35. Time now for your CBC News from Manitoba.
This This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it is 23 degrees right now. It is going to be another hot one. We're going to be baking at 33 this afternoon. Fire crews are working to put out a number of wildfires in the Arm of Kelsey near Highway 10. Fire forced the province to close that highway near Wanless for a time yesterday. Lori Forbes is the emergency coordinator for the RM. She says after last summer's fire season and evacuations, people are on edge. Forbes says the crews got on these fires quickly.
But all of those fires were responding very well to the air attack. We had Manitoba Wildfire Services had water bombers on those right away. They got ground crews up to them, and currently those fires were surrounded by the ground crews, which is a really good sign because that's the ability to hold those fires where they are.
Forbes says a fire ban is in place in the RM. She says this is a good reminder for people living in the area to be prepared. Now, in the city of Winnipeg, there are even more ways to help you beat the heat over this weekend. 9 drinking water stations are set up in central neighborhoods where you can fill up reusable bottles. Mike Olchik, Emergency Management Coordinator for the city, says they have also teamed up with 6 community centers to create cooling spaces.
We've got Bronx Park Community Center with the Clara Hughes Recreation Park, East Elmwood Community Center, Luxton Community Center, Lord Roberts Community Center, as well as Riverview Community Center. So if anyone in those particular areas may not have air conditioning in their home or someone that they know, they can go to those community centers during regular operating hours and they'll be able to get bottled water, a cool space to sit down.
You can also enjoy air conditioning at any city-run recreation or leisure facility, including libraries, during regular hours. The full list of cooling spaces can be found on the city's website. Well, the province has signed conditional deals with 24 doctors and 29 paramedics to come to Manitoba from the UK. Return of service agreements are one of the incentives Manitoba is using to lure the new paramedics. Each new paramedic gets to keep a $20,000 bonus if they stay here for 4 years. Jason Linkletter is the president of the Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals.
It's largely untested in terms of paramedic-specific tools, but I do know that return of service agreements in other areas that I am more familiar with are very successful.
The new hires stem from a recruiting visit by Manitoba's health minister to the UK last month. Manitoba's budget bill has passed a final vote after long days and some nights of acrimonious debate. The move paves the way for the elimination of the provincial sales tax from snacks, soft drinks, and convenience stores, as well as grocery stores, starting on July 1st. Canada's economic growth stalled in the first 3 months of this year, but Stats Canada this morning adds real gross domestic product has now shrank for 2 consecutive quarters, and that meets the definition of a technical recession. Increasing imports are one factor, the agency said, has slowed growth, along with reduced exports of Canadian-made cars and trucks. Well, calls for better controls at a Brandon intersection. A 49-year-old woman died Wednesday when the SUV she was driving was hit by a semi. Police say the semi failed to stop. Traffic lights were installed at that intersection last summer, but they haven't been activated. Brandon truck driver John Harrower says that is unacceptable.
Something needs to be done. It's sitting there not doing its job. Either make the functioning traffic lights all 3 colors or turn them all red until you can actually get the equipment that's needed.
The driver of the semi is charged with dangerous driving causing death. Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Steinbach, all cities on the Kundiman National Tour. That band you hear now, Hail, is one of 3 acts performing original Filipino music tomorrow in Steinbach. It is the first time Steinbach Southeast Event Center is hosting a national tour with bands from overseas. And it's exciting news for Christian Arellano, who lives in Steinbach.
Pretty awesome because I've been here in Canada, I should say, for 12 years now. And it's weird, you saw them there when I was still, actually in my younger years, and now I'm in my 40s. and I'm going to see them again. And I should say they're going to play probably the same songs, right?
Kundiman's promoters are bringing more Filipino bands to Steinbach in July. You can find more Manitoba news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That's Heather Wells at your CBC News Desk. Also, big thanks to all of our associate producers, technicians, Abby Adeyemi, Sierra Sanders, Chidi Akuma, Marshall Hodgins, Jenica Sewell, Dylan Longhurst, Emily and Sofia Peralta Baron, Stu Smoley, and Sarah Kromolowski. Our senior reporter is Jim Agapito, and our host, Nadia Kidwai, Marjorie Dahost, Chloe Friesen, Marcy Marcusa, and Faith Vandal, as well as our news team, Joni Nicolo, Megan Ketchison, Chris Armstrong, Darren Bernhardt, Heather Wells, our videographer, Travis Golby, our YouTube producers, Darren Morash and Robin Summerfield, helped produce the shows this week, as well as Leif Larson is the senior producer of audio. Sierra Sanders is in with one last look at your commute. Hello.
Yeah, Corey, that collision that we were looking at in the southbound curb lane of the Salter Bridge has been cleared, so all lanes are open. Might take a little bit for those backups to clear, but that is all clear. So some good news to end the show this morning.
Thank you very much, Sierra. Abby, hot weekend ahead.
Well, most of the regions already crossing over into the 20s as we speak. We're going to see this prolonged heat really hold things down into the weekend. We're going to see highs in the mid-30s today and even into tomorrow. Today, the south will get close to 35. Winnipeg, we are 33, heading to 23, heading to 33 right now.
Thank you very much, Abby. And thank you for tuning in. Hope you all stay cool out there. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. Have yourselves a lovely weekend. The Current is next.